Toronto Talk. I got food in my mouth. I apologize.
All right, so
Episode
this
12.
guy's rolling, and 1 sec.
So we're 7 days out of legalization.
Well, the 1 sec. Well, you talk.
All right. 7 days out of the legalization and the edible episode. It's interesting. You know, we lost power last week. We had to go record over at
Caribbean.
All right.
Caribbean Sunset.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. So we had to shoot there, and yeah, we were a little bit inebriated last week since we're now the prohibition on marijuana has been lifted. You know? How do you guys feel about that? Let me turn the volume down on this. How's the last 7 days been for you? Post-prohibition of the marijuana era.
It's been the exact same for me since before it went legal.
Yeah? Yeah, exactly.
I haven't even smoked the shit, but when I do, I wasn't getting bothered.
Okay.
So,
I feel you. I feel like it's about being smart with it. You can't just be like, you know, you just gotta treat it how you treated it before anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yo, before we continue, can we give a shout out to the Eastern Ave tap water?
tap water, it's horrible.
It's got so much chlorine and fucking
Yeah.
calcium in it that it's white when you pour it.
Yeah.
Like it literally, yeah, like it looked like mustard gas.
You gotta watch your arm there because we got a guest this week. And with your arm there, you're covering up our guest. But shout out to our guest. He's our first recurring guest.
Yeah,
I guess
first
no
recurring
Ches.
guest.
Ches would be right, but he's
He was
fan.
kind of a stand-in.
Yeah, I feel like
But
he's
no,
fan.
yeah, I guess you're correct.
I feel like Ches is kind of like he's part of the show, sort of.
Yeah, he's like distant relative.
Yeah, kind of. You know what I
And now
mean?
Seth has just become a distant relative.
Exactly. So that's what's up, man. What up?
Yeah.
All right, so he's back. You know what I mean? We're gonna talk to him about the documentary as we were before post documentary. We'll get into that in a bit and whatnot and what that experience was like. But yeah, man, a week into the end of prohibition, some people have already got ticketed. You know, a lot of people haven't got their product because there's a postal strike and. You know,
What
some of
great
the
timing, eh?
yeah, exactly. What great time. We got a postal strike.
Go hit up thccollection.com though.
There you go. Shout them out, thccollection.com. But yeah, man, the OCS and whatnot having some problems, I heard, because they got so many orders. They ran out of their product. A lot of the other provinces ran out of product really fast. Like, we didn't see that coming. You know, I think we all saw it coming, you know what I mean? And their approach to this, cool, but they could have maybe did it a little bit better, you know,
Maybe
the
they should
rollout.
have consulted with the experts.
Yeah, you should have gave me a call, guys. Come on, one of the experts here. You know what I'm saying? Any of you companies, if you want someone to come and, you know, give you my expertise, well, you know, hook me up with that cash shoulder and we can make that happen. Hint, hint. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go work for one of these legal companies and give them what's in my brain, you know, collected over the years of marijuana culture. And you know, see where we could take it. Because I think that's what's going to happen. You know, you can't just hire some random guy straight out of university and be like, "Hey, man, you're going to be the CEO."
You won't be like the Russell Simmons of weed.
Yeah, I would love to be the Russell Simmons of weed, but you know, but yeah, I think a lot of guys, you know, I think a lot of these companies are going to have to go to guys who have street knowledge in this and a little bit of more knowledge of the culture. Yeah, like you can't just hire some marketing executive straight out of university and be like, "Hey, turn my company into whatever," and he has no idea what he's diving into. You got to have somebody working for your company who actually understands the culture.
How does that like interview go for like that contract or whatever? Like, so
I don't
you
know.
smoke weed?
Yes. You know, like no,
separate
actually,
question?
I'm on to edibles now. I'm on to vaping. You know what I mean? Like you just drop the science and
What
like, oh
age
shit,
did you
okay,
start smoking at?
yeah, 13. You know, like something like that. You know, but,
Well, the last guy started at 8, but you got a better personality.
yeah, but no, I think it has to be deeper than that. I think you have to understand more a little bit about the, you know what I mean, about the culture and the people who smoke in the different aspects, because there's different groups, there's different subgroups of people who are into marijuana. It's not just everyone's the same, you know what I
They're
mean?
trying to just market it though as like still like medical, aren't they? Like
No, it's recreational now.
it
you know?
is, but like I don't know. I haven't really seen an advertising approach.
Game stays
as
in
far
the
as that goes.
streets.
I've been seeing a lot of posters on the TTC.
I seen that back taxi one. I'm pretty sure you posted that. That was hilarious.
Hey, see if the volume's all the way up there? I keep forgetting about the volume every time we do this.
But the whole thing about people
There you
not
go,
being
crank
able
that
to
volume.
drive when they're high is
Crank that
crazy.
There we
Those are
go.
what?
Yeah.
People been high and driving, and
Yeah.
how many accidents we have because of marijuana?
I think there was like a really bad one the day after up in Markham or something,
Really?
but yeah,
But
you
in
don't really
general,
hear-
prior to that though, nothing.
Yeah, there weren't a whole lot. You know,
not reported anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
but like I said, there's layers to it though. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna have the hip hop people who are in it. You're gonna have more of the rock people. You're gonna have more of like the Grateful Dead, old school
Yeah,
crowd,
everyone
the
smokes
hippie
weed.
crowd. Yeah, you do, but you got to cater to them differently. Your approach can't just be smoke. You know what I mean? If you're a company and you
Yeah.
want to really be successful, come, when they really allow for less of the rules. You know what I mean? Like to really succeed at this, you're gonna have to know your market, and you're gonna have to understand how to kind of market to different demographics, as you would almost anything else. But it's not something where you could just be like, okay, I'm going for the college crowd, because that, in theory that'll work, but you're gonna have people all over you if you're just trying to market the young kids with this, right? If you really want to be, I shouldn't say young kids, the adolescents.
Some of them old folks.
Man,
Yeah.
they could monopolize. Like,
That's
if
what I'm
they-
saying.
If they did like a commercial with Wiz Khalifa,
Yeah. Snoop.
Snoop Dogg,
Yeah. Meth. Red.
I was just gonna say Meth,
Cypress
Red
Hill.
Man, Willie Nelson,
Cheech and Chong.
Chappelle,
Yeah.
and you throw a couple others in there. You could find a few others.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might cost a lot of money, but that commercial, like
Yeah.
business will boom. People will skip the dealer real quick.
Absolutely. Be like, yo, we done with the dealer, man. We're just going straight to the source now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the
For
same
real.
side. Go ahead.
Nah, right now,
People say
No,
it's
it'd probably be
expensive.
garbage.
right now the
still.
prices are absolutely expensive, and like I said, because they got so many orders, some people aren't getting the orders. And from what I heard, see, what I knew is before this whole legalization thing, you could send, like, the Canadian Postal Service tells you how to send marijuana through the mail. I've
Say
researched
words.
this. Oh, they tell you on their website. What they say is A, it cannot be labeled on the outside.
Really?
B, it cannot smell. So basically, you have to be discreet with it. Now, what's happening is some people are sending the packages, OCS, I guess they're sending some packages, and maybe something's not sealed properly, and it's starting to smell. So
Oh, yeah.
those packages are going into what's called
How
the
can we
Postal
not
Service
smell?
graveyard. And some people
Yeah.
aren't getting their
That
product that they
graveyard,
paid
yeah.
for, right?
That graveyard is in my pocket. They're
I'd be
lying.
so mad if I ordered a bunch of weed online and
Yeah.
that shit never came.
Well, that's what
That's why
people
you
still.
never trust it though.
You still
Yeah.
gotta buy it, you know what I mean? Like, support your black market, if you still have one.
Or
you know?
support THCcollection.com.
Yeah.
Use the promo code hip-hop.
Hip-hop,
Save
yeah.
10% off any purchase you make.
Yeah, US or Canadian based.
Say what?
US or Canadian based. That's
Canadian.
the website.
What?
Canadian.
THC? Yeah,
Okay,
they're
okay.
Canadian based.
Yeah,
They
you
won't
can't
even
send it
ship
over
to
the border.
States.
No,
Yeah.
no, absolutely.
So I guess the online ones could stay in business, but not the locations.
It's a gray area.
Yeah, big
It's a
gray
gray
area.
area. Because I have a homie too who runs a medical company.
Yeah.
And for the last year and a half, they've been doing really well. Like he quit
Yeah.
his job and shit off
Yeah.
this, right? And those edibles we did last week
Yeah.
were courtesy of him.
Okay.
Chef that's Flake 9 edibles.
Yeah, like I said, as long as the package isn't labeled.
But like even he's like,
They don't know.
I seen him on my birthday on the weekend, and he's like, I'm considering like shifting my focus to like
Wow.
almost start a new company, like
Yeah,
because
That's
it's like
crazy.
it's a very weird area right now.
Yeah.
like,
absolutely.
even
it's
more
cool,
so
man.
than in that gray area before it was legalized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's really no rules to it, right? So like, yeah, it's. I don't know,
Well, if you think about it, it's a gold mine. It's a renewable gold mine. You know what I mean? Like the possibilities for entrepreneurship in this industry are kind of endless. The only downside is if companies like Molson and Coca-Cola and Coors,
Oh,
these
you know
big
they're
money
getting their
companies
hands
come
on
in
it.
and monopolize it.
you know they're getting their hands
Yeah.
on it.
And if they do, then that kind of sucks. But right now, I think there's possibilities. I don't like the whole idea that you have to buy all of your product from one source, because that doesn't breed competition.
Yeah.
That's
and
what I was
that's
gonna
gonna
say. The
inflate the
government shouldn't be
prices.
able to monopolize.
No,
No.
they shouldn't at all. They shouldn't at all. But I think hopefully, within a year or two, that loosens up.
They said by April they're gonna let the privatization kick in.
That's the privatization. But again, same thing. If you have to buy from strictly one source,
But like, do you trust the
Canadian
government with anything
No.
else? Like, what? Name me one thing you actually trust the government with in day-to-day life.
Maybe
That's like now I'm
healthcare.
gonna trust. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
All right.
That's one thing.
How you feel about this?
Isn't that what they do with alcohol now?
Kind of.
They monopolize it with the tax. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. What were you expecting?
Oh no, I wasn't necessarily expecting anything different. This is better than what I was expecting, to be honest with you, because prior to Ford's government, like we were gonna have you could only get it from the OCS location, and they were only gonna
Yeah.
have 4 within the first year,
Yeah.
20 by 2020 or 200 by 2020 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that they're going private. I'm a lot happier with that than like the old plan. Again, I just want to see a little bit more competition as far as where you can actually buy your source from. But again, like you said, you know, it's like that with alcohol. But is it like that in every other province though? Because I heard it isn't like that in the other provinces.
No,
I know
It
Quebec.
is in some provinces, but not
Yeah.
all of them.
I know
It's like out
Alberta's
east, they
pretty
have
open
like
like that, too.
specific liquor stores.
Okay. So it's interesting, you know what I mean, to see
But
how.
the thing
how it
is
goes.
with like booze, right? Because all these companies have been around so long, and you know, prohibition proved not to work. You couldn't take
Mhm.
over, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even with making it illegal, it just actually made it worse. So like, they can't control it, but they can control it through tax. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like same with cigarettes and stuff. They can't monopolize the
Right,
market.
right.
But they can monopolize through being the only source, right?
Yeah.
And I don't like, what is it with the weed though? Like, does the government have actual like their own like growing facilities and stuff, or do they actually go to these companies? You know what I mean? Because that would be the smart thing. Go to these companies that already exist, that have already put in 2-3 years of groundwork since it's been a gray area, and have like.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what they need to be doing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's what it
Some
is.
of the big companies want to shut down the dispensaries altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like they're involved.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a whole other thing too. Like the dispensary, that's a whole other area right now too, where I personally feel like they should have approached the dispensaries and said, okay, we're gonna give you a chance if you want to buy your license out right
Yeah.
now, you know, rather than us shutting you down, which is just gonna inflate the black market anyways for the next few months until April when people can get their license and open the stores, right?
Yeah.
So it's again the whole rollout, you know, some of it's okay, some of it's just a little bit off right now, I feel.
And then the certain laws that, you know.
And like the
that
other
can
thing
go
with it
busted.
too, like, because they have like a little official stamp on it, right?
Yeah.
And like they're gonna like
The
I've been
packaging.
reading articles saying, I don't know what satire, what's not. There's like 100 articles a day, but like
Right,
I was reading
yeah.
one that said that like if you get busted without legal weed, that like you'll get charged.
Yeah.
But it's like, so what? You have to literally walk around with that little stamp they gave you, like with your like, you know what I mean? Well, I already rolled into blunts, officer, but here's the stamp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't like. How are you gonna
Yeah.
control that?
Yeah, no, it's
It makes it so much easier for them
well,
to
there's-
just bust you on nothing.
Yeah,
No, like I
there's
almost
already
seem like some of these laws and rules they're putting in place almost make it scarier to be a pothead now than ever
Yeah.
before.
well,
Like,
there's ways to get out of that. I mean, you're allowed to grow your own product, right? So if you get approached on
Yeah.
the street and a cop says, "Hey, where'd you get it?" All you have to say is, "I grew this."
actually, I have another
They have no way
question
of
too.
proving that you didn't.
I was talking about with my parents on the weekend, and so like possession, that term only works in effect if you're out.
Yeah.
If you're not on your property. Okay. Because I was thinking, I was like, what happened if like the cops bust your crib? And like in possession, you have like you're allowed 4 plants. Like let's say I yield like a quarter pound.
Well, I
It's like,
think
well, you're allowed to grow those plants, but you're not allowed to have the weed. Like, how would that go,
yeah,
right?
right. No, they would have to have a reason to come into your crib, so some type of
But,
warrant
but
specifically
would that
for
warrant
that.
would that warrant a possession charge though? Like, if you have it at your crib and they have a warrant, is that still possession charge?
It would probably be a possession and like a intent to distribute or something charge. It would be something
like-
different, you know.
But like if you like if cops come
conspiracy
into
to
your crib
distribute.
and you got like you get caught with like an illegal burner or something, right?
Right.
You get a possession
Yeah.
charge, right? So if possession, like, you know, is one thing if you're just out on the street, okay, yeah, you brought it, you know, you shouldn't have done that. But like, if they're gonna tell you can grow 4 plants and then you can be charged for having more than 4 grams in possession or some shit like that, or like 24 grams, it's like, how the fuck does that work?
No. I think you're allowed. You're only allowed to be on the road with up to 30 grams at any
Okay.
particular time when you're out in
Out.
public.
Okay.
As far as in your house, I guess they say you're allowed to grow up to 4 plants. Now, what that can get
What
you, I
that
guess it
yield.
depends how good of a grower you are. Because I know
Like-
some people who can turn 4 plants into, you know, a lot, and some people just wouldn't get anything out of it. So it just really depends on how, you know, how big your horticulture skills are.
Yeah, like what if you can
Are
grow
these
one
public?
Monsanto crop
What's
after
that?
These
like
rules, these laws, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, these
Yeah,
are the,
they are,
these are
like-
the rules for Ontario.
no,
It's
I know that. I mean, like, did you go to a website and read the laws? Like,
Yeah.
what's going
Yeah.
on? You guys got really interested. Where'd you get
Yeah.
your weed today?
me. Oh man,
mine's
you know.
homegrown. I only
There you
smoke
go.
homegrown.
I'm just
And I
saying-
don't grow it, but someone I know
Yeah.
does.
See, the point I'm making is it's very early.
Yeah.
At this point, I feel like everyone we know is smoking weed the same way they did 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we can look at the laws and try to figure it out, but I don't think it's really going to be impacting us for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It all depends how they choose to implement it.
yeah.
That's all it's coming down to.
It's just weird, man. It's weird. It's a
up in the
weird
air
area.
based on
It's
that.
it's a weird area and it's an open market. You know, and not even just for the actual recreational smoking of it. Like, you know, there's going to be other things as far as like creams and, you know, as far as like tactile things that can be made, oils, you know, so it's going to open up a lot of
shit.
yeah.
I know there's a few beer companies already.
Yeah, right.
Like Starbucks is already into it.
Yeah,
Starbucks is already into it.
Hold on.
Absolutely.
Is Starbucks the biggest culture appropriator that exists?
I know Second Cup apparently is going to convert a lot of their actual coffee spots into
Weed lounges.
Yeah, weed lounges, and that's another possibility too. You can now start opening up. I guess if you could apply for a private marijuana club lounge where people could come into your spot, but then they have the whole like no smoking, you know, indoor thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it. You know what I mean? We'll see how it kind of.
A lot of red tape.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But again, very, very interesting to see where it goes. First weekend, like you said, it's very, very early. So, you know, let's see where it goes. And let's see if hopefully the people who pioneered the culture, if they can actually profit off this. I think they should be the ones who stand to profit off this.
Is Mark Emery in jail?
No, he's not in jail, but I
They let
think,
him out.
I don't know, I don't think he was really in jail. He got out.
Busted hard though.
He was out
They were
like
trying
a
to throw
few
the
years
book
back.
at him.
Well, he got in trouble, I think, with his wife trying to go to Spain or some shit. I don't know. They railroaded him. Regardless, they railroaded that guy because he put in his work. He put his time. He did jail time for it. He did everything to get it to where it's
That's
at
my
now to bring it
homeboy's,
just to people's
uncle.
attention.
So,
So, shout out to Mark Emery, man. You know,
online, so
yeah, man.
I couldn't do that, but hey, man, if that's your passion.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I used to like do the weed march and shit, but I mean, like,
Yeah, I used to do
dedicate
that
my whole
every
life
year.
to getting arrested for weed. I'm like,
I used to go every year just for fun, but like now,
I
just,
salute you, but
if I'm there, I go. You know what I mean? It's like I celebrate every day. I don't need an excuse just to go down here and just go crazy in the park. But I'm down here.
can we agree that
what's wrong with
420
man?
is the wackest day on earth?
No, you know what? They don't even celebrate 420. It's usually the first Saturday in May. That's when that actual like marijuana.
Thing's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be, but then there is the
But
big smoke
everybody's
out
all
at
about-
420.
I'm just talking about like
The actual time?
like just 420 altogether.
Okay.
Like the
Uh-huh.
kids who don't smoke weed would be like, yeah, we're getting mad and dancing.
Do I know my favorite
like,
time
it's
to
the
smoke is?
corniest shit in the world.
My favorite time
I
to smoke
almost like
420
don't
a.m.
smoke on 420 on purpose. It's like today's my day. I'm not getting high for sure.
Nice. Nah, I'm a 420 a.m. smoker, not a 420 p.m.
420
smoker.
a.m. smoker.
Yeah, I'm a late early morning type of guy. But
That's the time I'm getting up for work.
there you go. That's what's up. But what else is popping other than the first week legalization of the ganja? You know, Peter Tosh said legalize it when we finally did it. But what else is popping?
The big Mariel thing.
Sean Paul also said legalize it.
A lot of yeah.
He's a pioneer.
The pioneer. Yo, let's make some fucking tap water cheers for Sean Paul right now. You know
Peter
what I'm
Tosh.
saying?
I'm really concerned with this cloudy water you guys are drinking.
Yeah, I know.
Listen,
Oh, man.
from the
It's just
hood.
I feel like
You
Jim.
know-
I feel like Jim Jones is like over there behind the walls in the pipes, like.
You know those
Drink
packets you
the
can buy from the
Kool-Aid.
store and pour into your water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The meal. Nah, you know
guys have
what?
that now.
Yo, you know what a genius idea would be? They should
Yeah.
do like Brita in a packet, like a powder you just pour into your water and it like
Just cleans
acts
it
like
up?
Yeah.
Oh,
That
that'd
should
be
be
dope.
horrible for you, but they should do that.
That would be dope.
There, we just gave an idea away. So
What up,
Drake
cuz?
instead-
So do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be dope, man. But when it comes to when it comes to this shitty water, man, you know, from the hood, I grew up in metro housing. Sometimes you gotta drink shitty water. What can I say? Most of the time, I drink Brita now,
like the shit out of it though, and then let it cool.
but distill your own water. Nah, I feel you.
That's the hoodest shit in the world.
Yeah.
You're boiling your water, let it get cold. It's like,
Well, I'm gonna enjoy
come
this.
on, man, get a
This
Brita
nasty
filter.
ass tap water. And that's what's up. Oh, happy birthday, man!
Thank you.
Happy birthday. That's what's up.
Salute.
How would you
salute.
turn? 20?
That's right.
20 years old?
Yeah. Big 2-0.
Nice, man. Happy
Halloween
birthday.
H2O, yeah.
So what'd you do for the birthday, man?
A lot of nothing. No, I'm just playing.
You going up
Well,
to LA tomorrow?
Yeah, LA tomorrow, so that'll be interesting. I'm performing
Okay.
tomorrow night in LA at the Airliner.
Hey, shout out Young
And
Baka.
I'm supposed to interview Raz Kaz while I'm down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, I got so much other shit going on, it might be kind of hard to like. But
Navigate
hopefully we
it.
make that go down. We're gonna do Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Check out like Santa Monica, some shit like that. Hollywood, you know, the touristy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit,
we're
Chris
gonna
is
do
here.
a Packers
Oh,
game,
shit.
Packers and
Drinking
Rams
with
game.
Chris.
One of us gotta go get Chris.
I'm getting
Chris. Defaulted.
Alright.
Oh, fuck this.
We don't
You
really
going to
got
Packers
from
game?
the- Yeah, we're going Packers.
Hey, your
Rams
girl's a
game.
big football fan,
Oh yeah,
man.
she's crazy about it.
Crazy,
Shout out to
man.
Lindsay.
Yeah, shout out Lindsay. She hasn't been there a few weeks, but we still love you. You're going to a
True.
Packers game. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah.
Say what up to Baca for me.
Yeah,
Young
for
Baca,
sure,
what
for
up,
sure.
homie?
For
You know?
sure. Yeah, shout out Baca. So yeah, that'll be interesting, you know. But also, it's your birthday coming up this Saturday.
That's what's up. It is.
Yeah.
My birthdays are close like that, you know.
So what you got popping?
Oh man, I got shit, I don't know. My girl asked me what I want to do tomorrow and I have no idea what I want to do whatsoever. Trying to think of something fun to do, but I don't know, man.
That's
Like,
always the best way to start it. Just no idea.
just kind of wake up and just be like, all right, eat some bacon and eggs and start the day or something.
All right, now I'm on the couch smoking weed. Maybe I'll just stay on the couch and smoke weed.
Yeah, might do that. Shit, I don't know, man. I gotta do something tomorrow. I might just go to the movies or something, just chill out. Saturday, my actual B-day, like probably just gonna chill. To be honest with you, it's gonna be like a lot of Halloween parties. I'm probably just gonna go to a rock Halloween party, go see what's up. My boy
Word.
Dwight, shout out DJ Dwight. Gonna go
Word.
kick it with him and down around in Kensington Market, wander around, have probably one too many drinks that I shouldn't have, and go home.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You always gotta have one too many drinks.
Yeah, hopefully. Maybe not. I don't know, man. I'm getting too old for this shit, man.
Yeah, we say that, but
Nah, but like, 'cause I go to the
Actually,
gym
I
so
didn't
much,
say
man.
that.
I put in, like my time in the gym, and then a couple of drinks, I'm smashed,
Yeah.
bro. Like a few years back, I could throw down like pitchers, you know what I mean, and I'll be good. Now it's like
Ouch.
two tall cans and I'm done.
two tall
Smash.
cans.
2 tall cans and I'm ready to tap out.
Yo, just talk a little closer to the mic.
Oh, shit.
Sorry about that. There you go.
Because I got you cranked up, but I just don't want it to peak when we say something that really gets Dustin laughing.
Yeah.
Dustin laughs the least on the show. Can
Serious.
we agree on that?
Maybe.
Do you think?
Depends. I
Well,
have my
I'm
serious
reviewing
moments.
all the episodes, you know?
I have my moments.
I've
We gotta
literally
get
I've
that chair.
compiled every episode and counted the amount
that
of
chair.
time each of us spent.
Spent laughing.
An hour and a half times 10 times rewatching them 3 times to catch everybody's separate laughter. Oh yeah, that's dedication right
That
there.
is,
Hey, Chris Thomas in the house.
Yeah.
Chris
We don't
Thomas
have
in the
a-
building.
Yeah, we don't have a mic for you, but you can kind of,
share whatever. figure
chill.
I'm just here to
Yeah.
chill, bro.
Yeah, Chris Thomas in the place to be.
Ah,
Speaking
it's
of
that
getting
same
wasted
pretend
and shit,
it
Yeah, shout out Chris,
it's
man.
like
What up,
perfect
homie?
timing.
Chilling, bro.
How you doing, man? What's poppin'? You working on a new album and stuff?
Yeah, I got like my new album's coming out. It's called Liquor Baron. That's gonna be like next month or two. And I got a group album. The group's called Notice.
Hey,
Dope.
That's gonna be like next month or two as well. So
Okay, so that's what's up.
yeah.
You got Chris in the building. You got Septo in the building.
yeah.
You
If
want
we had
one
a,
shot?
I
oh
would
man,
love one.
you know what? Why not? Let's do it.
These are
Hey,
deadly, man.
There you
I'm telling
go.
you, these things are.
It's the birthday episode.
Everybody make some fucking noise for Chris.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hey.
All right, we'll do some cold
I know,
shots.
bro.
It's the
You
birthday
Drinking that
episode,
water for
so
no reason.
I know, we're drinking fucking.
Oh yeah, it's your birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
That's right.
Cheers.
Cheers to
Cheers to
birthday.
that.
baloney.
Hells yeah.
Drinks all around.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now that's a good guess right there.
There you go. Cheers, cheers. All right, let's do this.
There we go. Isn't it ironic the week that neither of us decide to buy any booze?
Someone comes through.
What's up?
Hey guys,
Yeah.
can I come back?
What you say about not drinking?
Yep.
So what's
Thank you very
Toronto
much, sir.
talking about today?
Man, we were just discussing the first week of legalization, and we were just saying that it's birthday week for this man here,
Yeah.
myself here. You know what I mean?
I just turned
And,
17.
Yeah, he just turned
I'm
17.
almost legal.
I'm turning 27.
Yo,
I wish.
when's your party again?
My party's on November 9th,
Oh, okay,
Hey.
okay.
2 weeks after my
Plug
actual
that,
birthday.
plug that.
And November 9th, Club 120. We got who we got up there? We got Mike Guts, Tony Ranks, my dude Tony Boy coming up from Buffalo. My girl Shima. Who else we got up in there? Specs One, Z, Century Sam. We got a few other people, man. A few other people myself. Yeah, come through Club 120. I'm go hard with the promotion a little bit later, and we're gonna have a blast. But
True.
that's a few weeks from now, so we'll promote that a little bit later.
True.
Get back to that. But this week,
True.
that's about it, man. Birthday week. That's pretty much all we discussed for the moment. We're gonna move on to some. What else?
Well, let's talk about the movie that we all went to go see. Well, Mike didn't join us.
Yeah.
Because he's not a team player.
I had
Yeah.
to work.
He's
I
like-
had to work.
He's like, I'll talk to you guys for an hour and a half a week, and then get the fuck out of
Man,
here.
I had an 8 to 2 shift, man. I had to do that.
No, I know. I'm just
Nah, we
fucking
feel
with
you.
you. But you did get a chance to
Oh,
watch
yeah,
it
it's
too.
dope, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I thought the film was incredible.
Absolutely. If you don't know what film we're talking about Another Decaying Crown, which is the documentary that my man to the left right here put out. Myself, Maloney, Specs, we went to go see it at, was it the Carlton Theater?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So we go see it at the Carlton Theater, which was dope. You know what I mean? Really, really cool. I saw a lot of people that I grew up with in there, which was really, really dope. You know what I'm saying? I like that. Shout out to my man Blue. You know what I'm saying? Like me and Blue go back to Hilliard days, and shout out to OEZ. You know what I mean?
Hey,
And yo, man, big things.
it
Man.
was
So,
awesome.
First and foremost, let's let this man talk about that experience himself. What was that like having a movie premiere, bro?
You know what? I'm never satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
People want to hear like I was breathtaking.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when you work so long on something, and when you plan so long for something,
Yeah.
and then it finally happens, you're kind of already sort of moving toward the next step.
Yeah.
So,
I say
You
the
know what I
same
mean?
shit about album releases
Yeah.
and all
That's what
that
it
too.
is.
Yeah.
so it's like, I'll tell you this as a side note. One thing I absolutely hate, and you get a lot of it in this industry, is people who talk big things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Everyone
yeah.
wants to meet with you,
Yeah.
talk for an hour, nothing happens. You can hear it's fluff. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But
Eminem's my brother.
like, so we can sit down and have a conversation, and we're planning 5 years from now what's gonna happen here, and it's like, yeah, but what are we doing next week?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
So,
Right.
in these scenarios where you're planning concrete things, when they happen, they're not really dreamy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Where we're just executing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as that was concerned, that was thankfully another achievement. Another notch on the belt. We did release parties before. We've done musical things. This is the first time we ever premiered a film in a festival.
Yeah.
That's a pat
Yeah.
on the back
Yeah.
stuff, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. But definitely while I was there, I was thinking about the next step. One thing that did surprise me though was the demographics. So, I had y'all,
Yep.
Yeah.
which was an expectation. You're the kind of people I would see in the crowd if I was doing a show,
Right.
right? But then I also had like elderly people walking up to me,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 70-year-old men saying, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
I don't like hip hop, but I fell in love with you.
Okay.
You know?
Wow.
And it's kind of like, I think that was the best epiphany of the night, was this idea that I've always made music, which is very subjective. So people connect to it based on, do you like Sep? Do you like hip hop? Do you like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Certain
yeah.
things.
By whatever you've been boxed into.
It's
as
always
an
been a
artist.
certain demographic.
Yeah.
This is the first thing I think I've ever come up with that doesn't feel like it has a niche target audience,
Yeah.
I feel like I could just be like auntie, cousin, send it to your sibling, send it to your grandparent, like whatever it is. It's just a good film. It's an opportunity to connect to
So-
human things.
so like me and the listeners in the room, like,
Yeah.
what's it all about?
Yeah. So I mean, I was working on my last project in 2015. This album I put out called God Mind, and I was very happy with it. And I went on the regular run that I was used to going through a certain rotation, right? So when we started filming, it was supposed to be behind the scenes of the making of,
Okay,
God Mind. And I think our intention was to show like the very sober, realistic look at what this Toronto industry really is.
We all know
Which
what
is
that's
cool.
like, right?
It would have been a cool movie, but what ended up happening was we ended up capturing a good 3 years or 2 years of my life where I was just really falling off in terms of inspiration.
For real.
I ended up not promoting the album, just sort of ending up in my own little zone, and we captured that.
Yeah.
And all the people that I met along the way, all the artists in Toronto or whatever, We ended up kind of, instead of getting their behind the scenes interactions with Sep, instead we get how they feel about the state of the music industry, the state of
Okay.
Gotcha.
the oversaturation, so on and so forth, right?
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Oh, in short, yeah, it's like the story of just lost inspiration.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
Well,
passion,
that's the
a
story
fire,
of Toronto.
Yeah.
the fire.
Yeah. But the demographics was really dope, like
Finally
seeing that
getting
demographics, like you were saying, because I remember going in, you know, trying to survey. I was personally hoping to see a little bit more representatives from the Toronto hip hop scene.
Community,
Yeah, you know, the ones that should have been there, they were there, but I was
Yeah.
hoping to see, you know, just a little bit more camaraderie, you know, and I posted up about that a little bit the next day.
Yeah.
You know, but I was very, very interested in seeing, you know, like you said, there was a few elderly white people that were there and they were taking it in, and I think they were there because, you know, it was like, hey, what is this, a documentary? And they're into
Yeah.
that type of film, and
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And they were there to see it, and, you know, just to see the reception afterwards, and you know, just outside of people taking pictures and see that was dope to, you know, see that, because I know as a hip hop fan, same thing, sometimes you can't always show somebody what you did, because to them, or you might feel like they might take it as vulgar, or they might take it a certain way, and you know what I mean, you have a certain respect, or they're an elder, so you don't want to show them per se that side of you, or that's, you know what I mean, like that's just what hip hop is.
Yeah.
But like you said, with this, you're able to really show anybody and everybody, any age, any demographic,
Yeah.
this is me as an artist, you know, this is a project, and they could take that in and fully, you know what I mean, dissect that without having to necessarily look at it and be like, well, this is hip hop. It is, it's about hip hop, but this is more about your whole process and the journey, you know what I mean? It was dope. So demographics was cool to see that, man.
Yeah, so that was the biggest standout, man, to be honest. But most of the time we were just thinking of phase 2, what's phase 2? You know what I mean?
What's
So-
next?
So like, how'd you end up getting it into the theaters, and like what made the process from it's gonna be a documentary on my album to it's a documentary on this is what the downside is like kind of thing. Like, how did you go from that to that sort of thing?
So I would say in the very beginning we had like, if you film for 2 years, we had a lot of story arcs. So we had the album, we had the lack of inspiration, but we also had like, okay, this is his interaction with his family, or this is his interaction with his work, or the deterioration of the crew of guys that came together in the beginning, and then how it kind of, we all grew up and started living separate lives. Like we had all these different storylines, and just ended up sort of zooming in on that one, right? Where we kind of moved away from the whole album process. And then we actually, before the festival, we rented the theater out ourselves, coincidentally the same one.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so we went to the theater, and basically, you know, we all sort of just pulled in as many people as we could. I used whatever Septo pull I had, and we got like sort of a private media screening going. So we rented it out, we paid it out of pocket, and just let all the media come in for free. Friends and family, stuff like that. Sold out the theater, and then from there started using that momentum, applying for festivals and things of that nature. So
Nice.
that's how we ended up in that first film festival. So we ended up back at that theater to present it then.
Yeah, Carlton does some good like local work all the time too, man. Shout out Carlton Theater stuff.
Yeah. So have you guys been approached by any other festivals since?
We have some conversations. However, that lane has sort of changed, because the thing is, we could keep booking theaters and make it this secret documentary that you need to buy a ticket for,
Right,
and when
right.
we say, and then if it sells out, you can't go no more. Like,
You need to get that Netflix contract.
yeah, that's what
Right.
I'm saying, right? So what we did was we said, you know what, let's not premiere it again. Let's not view it again at a theater. So that's when we ended up just turning the private link public and just put it out for
Okay.
everybody, right? So the game plan now is just to let people share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Let people take it in, talk about it, share it, view it, whatever the case, and see where it goes from there.
Okay.
Right.
Dope. I like that approach. Like, it's something I could see, you know what I mean, on the Movie Network or Super Channel, one of
Yeah,
those channels, because
100%.
they need content. They have to play Canadian content. If I'm not mistaken, Movie Network, one of the channels is specifically like a documentary channel, a Canadian channel. So
all that too.
yeah, you know, so I could see. I mean, I hope that these guys view this content and say, hey, this is good enough. We should put this on our platform and really approach you guys.
Do you have it up on Hip Hop Canada as of right now?
It is on Hip Hop Canada. It's
Okay.
actually on a few blogs.
Okay.
So we did an interview with Hip Hop Canada, and they ended up premiering it when we decided, like, okay, so when is your next viewing?
Yeah.
And we said, you know what? We're just gonna put it live. So we premiered it on Hip Hop Canada. Now you can find it anywhere,
Okay.
right? So whatever hip hop blogs or whatever that picked it up, it's on there. But the easy place to go is septo.ca.
Yep.
And the whole movie is just sitting right there.
Okay. Word.
So, to your point, it would be nice to
Mhm.
get global distribution, but right now it's really all about the people. We put out a press release and just said, listen, we're servants. Like when the 2 times we premiered the film in the theater, same question came up, which is, how do you navigate making a film about the oversaturation of a market and the loss of this intangible thing in an art form, and then simultaneously do the exact same things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So the only way to navigate that is to not hold it like it's a product.
Yeah.
The only, you know what I mean, is
Yeah.
to not continue to, okay, I'm selling tickets again.
Right.
Come see the secret thing that everyone's talking about. We just said, you know what? This is first of all, it's a dated message. It's 2015,
Yeah.
right? It's a very specific pocket in time. We don't want it to become irrelevant. We don't want the message to run out.
Yeah.
We don't want it to dissipate. So if it's important now, then let the people have it now.
Yeah.
And, instead of currency, money as a currency, we're just hoping that, people, if they enjoy it, that they spread it.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know what I mean? And if it's going to become something global, any sort of successful global work of art, then it's going to be because the people locally decided
Yeah.
to throw this thing everywhere, right? And see what happens from there.
I like that. I like that whole approach because basically what you're saying is, like, kind of, F capitalism, F necessarily monetizing this. I would much rather you invest your time in this.
Yeah.
If you like it, give it out there for free because, if enough people see it, you know what I mean? Like, that's worth more.
What's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's the point.
I really like that approach, and I hope, anybody who's watching this, or anybody who's watching this, not necessarily live down the road, the movie's called Another Decaying Crown. You know what I mean? Go out there, search it,
Go, Chris.
invest that time into it, and like my man said, share it often. You know what I mean? Because most people don't want their product bootlegged,
Cheers.
shared,
Yeah.
sent out for free.
Mhm.
You're asking people to do that. You know what I mean? And I think more artists kind of are going to start taking that approach. You know what I mean? In the era that we live in, and that's where you will see the cream rise to the top. You know what I mean, with that approach. But I definitely like that. I like the fact that you just want to give it out, and that's art. You know what I mean, which is what you really focused on in this
Yeah.
project.
It's funny because we gotta practice what we preach and live by
Right.
these things, right? So in the film, we're kind of hinting at this idea that art is becoming valueless, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just don't sell the movie. It's like selling albums, right? In the
Yeah.
streaming era, really, like what is selling an album?
Yeah.
What is selling your painting? What is selling your pictures? Whatever it is, because of that type of saturation, selling of art is not really something that is as
What's Spotify
It doesn't
now?
work anymore.
$0.002?
yeah.
Is it supposed to go up now because of the monetization act?
No, like I don't even know what that's about, man. Like it's already been monetized, so
But
they
you're
lifted
just supposed to
it,
get more money. Basically, that's what it's supposed to do.
It's
I
still
haven't
worth
seen it.
less than
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, radio.
I think
still
America
worth
too,
less.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That-
think about
sorry.
I think it's people that sign to labels too.
Yeah,
But
probably.
in general, like, just
But I had one thing to say, like, I haven't seen your film yet,
Mm.
but from what I'm hearing about it, it sounds like a lot of people, like in the North American, especially market, and like the European market, they can relate to that type of
Yeah.
struggle. Like, so I think it is a good,
Yeah.
like, you put it out there for free for everyone. Like, I think it is a good thing. I'm definitely gonna check it out now that I
Yeah.
know about it.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely gonna share it.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, I'm
I
looking
really
forward to
think
checking
about
this,
like
so.
who's making money right now, and
Yeah.
I'm talking forget like just the local,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
European,
Right,
North
right.
American.
Yeah.
Who's making money even when you're looking at the industry that's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's not necessarily the musician making money off
Yeah.
their art.
No.
No.
It's the musician using their art to promote their personality,
Yes.
to make money off of everything else. The
Endorsements
music is the
and-
commercial.
This,
Yeah.
this
You
is,
understand?
yeah, for sure.
The album is the commercial. So I mean, it's just not the era we're in anymore
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
where we're attaching value to something we make.
Well, like
Well-
it used to be special, you know what I mean? There used to be a mystique to the music. There used to be it used to be special. You used to want to go spend $20 on a CD, you know what I mean?
Put up posters and shit.
Yeah, like
But even in the era
used
when
to
you
be-
were though, like for example, look at TLC. They sold close to, I want to say like, let's say maybe 40 million records. And by selling close to 40 million records, they were still broke. They had to file for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
so
fucked up deal.
the
Well, what
music
about
doesn't
New
own-
Edition after going on their first
Yeah.
tour? They got presented
Yeah.
like what was it, $1.50 check each or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
That's what
So the
happened.
music doesn't
Recouping.
always make you the money.
No.
You know what I mean? And like my man said, you know, you got to be able to use whether it's your videos or whether it's your album, whatever it is you're doing, you got to use that as an infomercial, as a way to tie everything together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's, in all honesty, that's the power of hip hop. And you know what I mean? I think a lot of people really hated somebody like, let's say, a Puffy back in the day. And a lot of those people that kind of hated on Puffy but first hit the dance floor nowadays when you throw in a Bad Boy
Yeah.
set. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna lie, because they'll say fuck them all rappers, and then you throw in a Bad Boy set and they'll be
Well,
like,
that's
but they were the
the
first
thing.
ones
The
to
thing
hit
people-
that.
6'9" haters now still.
The
bro.
things
Right.
people considered trash back in the day
Yeah.
It's actually
are eons.
But what I want to
beyond,
say though,
you know what I mean? Like on like a lot of levels,
Yeah.
what a lot of the popular stuff is today.
but what I
it's the
wanted to say is, you know what I'm saying, if you look back,
Mike
you know,
wants to
other
say
than maybe like a
something.
Russell Simmons,
It's a-
Puff was kind of the first to kind of realize, like, hey man, we gotta start tying all of these different industries
Elements.
and entities
Yeah.
together to diversify our bonds. Chappelle Show, diversify our bonds. You know what I'm saying? You can't just rely off of the music sales. You know what I'm saying? That's something that, you know, we talked about before.
Yeah.
Vic, you know what I'm saying, my
Yeah,
mentor, Vic Sinclair, he told us that, you know what I mean? If you're indie, you absolutely can. If you got 1,000 fans who will spend $100 on your product a year, you can, you know, but if you're a major artist, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna go broke as a major artist, you know what I mean?
It's
And
like
people
a nickel
don't realize
profit
that,
per album.
right?
Yeah.
You know.
You make more profit as an indie than you do as you
I
do
know-
as a
I know,
major.
right.
So
now,
many
bro, I
people
put,
got their
like-
hand in your pocket before you even touch anything.
I put like
Like a
almost
point-
2 G's into my album right now, and like it ain't even close to being out yet. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like shit's expensive out here.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, but that 2 G's is nothing compared to if you're on a major, what
no,
it costs to
not
put
at all.
out. If you're on a major, they're gonna charge you 2 G's for one studio
Oh yeah,
session.
100%, 100%,
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
They'll charge you 2 G's for that can of Pepsi you get out of the vending machine
See,
during
that's
that
why like
recording
someone
session.
like J. Cole's got it good though, you know what I mean? He
Yeah.
records his own shit, produces his own shit, so he's invoicing himself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the
That's
Like
what
he
I'm
decides
doing,
what
right, man.
you know what I mean, the price is. Like
You don't hear people out here now like, oh, I'm trying to get a deal. I'm trying to, because nah, that ain't how the music industry
no,
works.
it's not really.
Yeah.
And to
You
be
might be
honest,
able to,
nowadays,
you know.
like the labels, they're just leeches, and half the stuff
I know.
that's so
They
good
been
has a,
leeches. They
Yeah.
was changed. It's just a different game now.
yeah, but I
man.
just mean like in the sense of like
Same
everything,
shit.
like at least like you had A&Rs in the 90s, you had
I
groups
know,
that
but they
wanted
were
to develop
leeches.
artists. They're still leeches,
Leeches.
still leeches, but I'm talking like nowadays it's like half the artists they suck up are artists who are self-sustained or
Yeah.
hot, and the other half are like bad bobbies and shit, like people who are just like,
But
you
she
know what
is
I mean?
self-sustained. Like she has the
Viral
YouTube
fucking
numbers.
Right.
other people.
Yeah.
Like Shiggy will probably drop an album next
Oh,
year.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Listen, if you want to get involved in the music industry, and let's say you want to get involved, but you don't have the musical inclination or talent, and you're trying to figure out your thing, don't try to go viral. Just become a damn fucking entertainment lawyer, all right? Invest that 8 years and that $100,000 or whatever.
there's
and
too many people want to be
hopefully
the
you'll
star,
be the
not
next
enough
Clive
people want to
Davis.
be the behind the scenes
Oh,
people.
absolutely.
That's another problem with the industry.
Absolutely, the money's behind the scenes, not.
And that's where the
in front of
money
the
is,
camera,
but everybody wants the popularity.
Yeah. That's
Everybody
not even
wants-
the industry, that's social media.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's life in
The
general.
industry's taking advantage of
Of the social media.
Oh
Mhm.
fuck yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Because again, the music don't matter at all.
Yeah,
At all.
Yeah.
It's valueless,
yeah.
right? So as long as you can get 7 million views, it doesn't
You're
matter
set.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
No, you can get like easily 100 plus more, or what? What was the numbers I heard today? Who was saying it? It wasn't Charlamagne. Someone I was listening to today. Either way, but they're like the math basically breaks down to like if you got 1 million followers on Instagram and you have over million to 2 million hits on a video,
Yeah.
that you can actually get presented. It's like up to about a $1.5 million deal right now from a record label.
Yeah.
Whether you're like an artist or not, like
Yeah.
whether you're like,
Yeah.
like that's the way the math breaks
Wow.
down. Like if you have that much type of influence, like they'll throw a deal at you.
Yeah.
Like
I
that's
believe
crazy.
that. Well, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for ready-made hits. They're looking for influencers. Remember, I said it last week. I said it, before. The biggest, most influential people when it comes to this thing is the 14 to 19-year-old white girls who have disposable income. Like it's the urban people who give something its stamp of approval,
Yo,
and it's the
that was
14 to
Eminem
19-year-old
fans
girls
back
who
in the day,
make
too.
things go pop. And
Yeah.
once it goes pop, that's when it makes that money for these
Yeah.
companies and whatnot. And that's all they're looking for right now. They're looking for the things that disposable income age group can spend that money on. They don't want anything they have to invest in. They don't want to spend 5 years to recoup on their investment.
Yeah.
They want instant return. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They want instant sales. So that even touched on something that you said in your documentary when you talked about people putting out an album and within a week nobody cares about it.
Yeah.
And that's really what I feel like, you know what I mean? And that's hard to digest as an artist because you put out a
Like
project.
even the biggest artists.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like Astroworld was the talk of hip hop for a week. Then the next shit came out. Then the next shit came out. And like everybody calls this like one of the greatest years in hip hop we've had in a long time.
I think
And
it
I
is.
actually
I agree with that,
I
man.
disagree to the degree of that it's way too oversaturated.
You
Like yeah, we
able
got a lot
to
of
Don't
great.
listen to that shit.
Well, we got a lot of great artists put projects out, but like none of these projects really stand up to
I
any of
don't
the
know.
previous.
I've
work.
gone back and listened to a lot of albums that have come up this year, specifically Drogas Wave and specifically Book of Ryan. Those two albums I've
Book
gone
of
back
Ryan's
and they
hard.
got
Prime was
a
hard.
lot
Yeah,
of replay
Prime
value.
2
from
was
them.
fucking hard too.
Yeah,
Right?
Prime 2 was like.
I
It
gotta
was
say,
dope, but-
give Royce the fucking.
Yeah,
Grammy.
Royce
I
is
don't
the
know, man.
MVP this year.
Prime
He
1
might be
to
the
me,
MVP
that
this
was
year.
like
that was better
soundtrack
than
of my
Prime 2.
life.
That was better than Prime 2
Like
for
all
sure,
2000.
but
When did it come out? December 2014.
something
I
like
think
that.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my like that album. That short and sweet, 9 songs. And that was the soundtrack to my whole life for 2015. Like the
That-
shit he was
that was my
talking
soundtrack
about,
to that
like the, you
year,
know what I
yeah.
mean, the cheating and all that shit. Like
Yeah.
everything was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
relatable. And then on the new Prime, it was just kind of like a bar exam mixtape over primo beats.
See, to your point,
Fair,
though,
fair.
there's two
Yeah.
different types of people looking at the year, right? So there's
Yeah.
a type of person who's listening to music and enjoying music,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's the person that you're talking about who says it was a great year for hip hop.
yeah,
Because it was. If you're just talking about music,
yeah,
right? Dope beats, rhymes, whatever.
yeah.
If you're talking about hip hop, and hip hop not as a genre of music, but just
Sales and marketing.
like
Culture.
yeah, feel.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just
okay.
like so.
The feeling wasn't there.
Like the Book of Ryan was an amazing album,
That
right?
yeah, that album is.
And then another album came out.
Yeah.
And now that's it. Like so.
Yeah, it's weekly now.
There was a time when hip hop was alive.
Yeah.
And an album
And it lived in the north.
changed
Like
the
it
way
was-
people
It was a
talked to
soundtrack.
each other.
Yeah, like
It changed the way people dressed. It changed the way where people went.
It
how
shifted
they
culture.
spoke,
Yeah,
perspective,
yeah,
the books
yeah.
they read. Like it was just a whole. It wasn't music. It was a whole culture and
Yeah,
vibe that,
yeah.
that an album impacted. Right.
Now,
See,
would
like
you
what I
feel-
feel
So
we
from
have.
that perspective, when you say this is not the greatest year in hip hop or it's not a great year
Right.
in hip hop, I understand that perspective
Yeah.
because the music, the quality of the music doesn't really.
But let me
Well,
play
it
devil's
doesn't
advocate.
like it doesn't exactly like you said, right?
Yeah.
Because like you go back and like I said, Prime
Mhm.
is the 2015 soundtracks of my life. Like that's an album that came out
Mhm.
that put you in that 90s feel. You know what I mean? Like it you look at it and it represents a time of your life.
Yeah.
Like a lot of classics. Like I'm younger, so I grew up on a lot of classics 10 years after they were old,
Yeah.
but they still represent a time of my life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like 36 Chambers and fucking Illmatic just represents my whole fucking life. But you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like all these albums represent times in my life they were just past the prime of when other people, right?
Mhm.
But that's the thing, like I don't like who really dropped like Book of Ryan was one of those. Like it
Drogas
was
Wave,
dope.
like I said,
Is
Drogas
that
Wave
the
is-
Lupe album?
Yeah,
I haven't got a chance to
amazing,
peep that yet, so I
amazing
gotta peep
album.
that.
Is that is
But-
that his new album's good?
Yeah.
Out of
Yeah.
all these great artists dropping material, like no one really, aside from like those, no one really gave you a life soundtrack. You know what I mean?
J. Cole.
Yeah.
J. Cole's last album.
Like Jay Z's
great.
444 is a soundtrack album to me.
But let me play devil's advocate for a minute. You know what I mean? Because all of us are just a little bit older now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In our life. So yes, I definitely agree. The pace in which things are being released is a little bit crazier. You know, our attention spans to actually absorbing things, it's waning a little bit.
Yeah.
But is it waning you know, for us, because we have more going on in our lives as adults compared to young adults or teenagers, or is it waning because you would say the overall culture?
That is a good point. That I think has to do with the amount of time you have to digest music and
Right.
what you choose to listen to. That's like why with me, like hip hop is so, like it just is lost so much of that special feeling. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was telling Mike before we started the show, do you know what I spent my day listening to at work today? Old radio recordings on cassette people posted to YouTube of DJ Red Alert live on the radio in like '88.
Mm.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what I
not-
mean?
It's not it.
I feel you. I feel you.
Like, I don't know if I said this before the last time I was here, but because it makes sense to the film. But again, I was talking to like a 20-year-old dude, right?
Right.
And he could not relate to the emotional attachment that I had to music.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I get that.
You know
I
what
get
I'm saying?
that.
It's like pop music to a
because
lot
there's
of
too
kids
much.
now. Yeah.
There's too much music to choose from. I play this. Okay, cool. Like
Yeah.
I listen
Yeah,
to
yeah,
it.
yeah.
One, I like no. I don't know that it's normal nowadays for kids 10 years younger than us to listen to an album, get to the end, start it over.
No, I get that. And I
Yeah,
mean,
honestly,
that's,
I
you know what I
listen
mean?
to albums cover to cover all day at work. Like, yo, I ain't listening to song. And I'll put on an album. I'm listening front to back because that's the way you get a full feel of an album.
Yeah.
But a lot of albums these days, like the new school hip hop stuff, there isn't a story to the album.
Yeah.
That's why I was really feeling Kendrick when he first came out, because like he had a story to his music. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that brought it back to like the '90s hip hop, where it's like it said something.
Well, no, absolutely, and I think it boils down to a few things. Number one, the fact that we have less labels, so less competition. Number two, anybody could put out an album. Number three, we live in the singles era, but also number four, again,
Isn't it
like
weird how it cycled like that?
yeah,
Like hip hop
we live in the singles era. But
grew
also,
up
what I want
on
to say
the
is
singles.
right. It
Yeah.
grew up in
And
on
now
the
we're
singles,
back
but
there.
you would
Bands are dressing
find.
like the '80s again too. So what?
No, they are.
Hey.
But also, again, I'm gonna say it. Like I'm turning 37 on Saturday, so I'm getting up there. You know what I'm
dated
saying?
yourself.
I don't give a shit. 80s favorite babies all day, every day.
Yeah.
But listen, check it out. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm going back to the liquor store. I'll be right back, guys.
yes, sir. All right, please bring something back. Yeah, you know what I
Shout
mean.
out to Chris Thomas.
But growing up, my age, yes, sir. Listen, Chris,
He just
my
changed the whole
age is almost parallel with hip hop. So as old as I was, hip hop is only a few years older, which means it was somewhat of a new genre. It was still in its infancy. It was still in its teenage years. It was still finding out who it is. Now hip hop's in its 40s. You know what I'm saying? So the whole aspect of it just being, you know what I mean, like it's fully developed. You know,
But it
there's still gonna be
hasn't
new
developed.
things.
That's the problem.
Well, I mean, it's not
Meaning,
new
put it like this.
like that. You know what I
Put
mean?
You
like
just
this.
saying that remind me of the KRS-One line. Fucking, I don't know why, but rap as a whole isn't even 20 years old.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah,
20
we
years,
know.
we'll be the old school artists, and then you can start this. It's like, yo,
But that's the whole thing. The old school, the
That shit's
old
still
school
hard, too.
is not respected. That era that he's
No,
talking
but I
about,
think
you're
it
not
is, though.
right now.
I think it
It's
is.
respected by those who know it.
yeah.
Those who don't know it and are familiar with it,
They don't give a fuck.
disregard it.
Yeah, but they don't
Nah,
need to.
but-
They don't need to.
True.
Right?
Like, cause
That's
I don't
the
give a
thing.
shit about a lot of people.
Yeah.
I gotta be
Yeah.
honest. Like, I call myself like a hip hop head.
Yeah.
Right? The way I grew up, the way it influenced me. I swear, hip hop influenced me more than my parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know Run DMC is important.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know Cool Mo D is important.
But you just don't.
But that's
vibe
not
with
your
it.
And I
generation.
went and listened to it, and I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
that
then
wasn't
I was
your.
like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Because as far as the evolution is concerned, things are always gonna be dated, right?
Right.
And that's the same way these kids are nowadays.
It is. It
But
is.
that's the whole thing. Is what came out before more advanced than what's out now.
It depends on levels.
Yeah.
You know what's more
Yeah.
advanced now? The beat. Let
Yeah.
me tell you something.
The production.
No, you know what? Everything's more advanced.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Let's be very straight.
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
Right. Lyrically, things are being done today
Mhm.
that have never been done and could not have been done in
It
'86.
depends. What, like,
Things are.
I would
Things
say
are.
maybe
what things are.
melodically, not
No,
necessarily
no.
lyrically.
I'm talking like put Royce 5'9" against Run. I'm just
Okay,
saying-
But
I'm
but
saying
Royce
the
Swagger
reason-
came on in the 90s, so we,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
we have
but
to
what-
compare that era.
No,
not
I don't.
now.
I'm talking about right
Because-
now, not where he's from. I'm saying
Yeah,
even
because
the
he was
MCs
kind of rapping.
No,
like
I get
that
it,
from
though.
Well, could you
then,
lay the
I get
groundwork for someone else to be inspired and then to twist
exactly,
things
and then
a
they get
different
better.
way?
Yeah.
and
Like,
better and better.
You
Yeah.
know, Cool G Rap was the first like real multi-syllable guy. But just because you're the first doesn't mean you'll be the best to
You're
ever
not-
do
but
it.
when
You
I
just
say-
set a trend. Now a bunch of people want to be better
And they
than
want
you.
to
Right.
master.
But put it like this: who's
Yeah.
better than Cool G Rap doing what he does?
Multi-syllables?
So who's better? And put it like this: if
No,
I say
Eminem's
Eminem,
better
than
a lot of
Eminem.
people-
I was
we
gonna
would
say
say
Eminem.
but that's the whole thing, right?
Eminem.
We would say
Eminem,
Eminem is,
yeah.
but
Even G Rap's there.
if and
Pun.
when, but if and when I go,
Pun.
is Eminem better than Cool G Rap? People will be like, no.
Out of respect.
So
See, because that's the
we
thing.
need
you
to be
have
honest.
no,
We have
no,
respect.
no.
So let's be
But- so let's
honest.
It's
be
about
honest.
two different
But let's
things.
be
It's about
honest.
separating yourself from
But let's be
looking at
honest.
everything at face value
But let's
as
be
equal,
honest.
or it's about if you look at
But
things from the
let's be
time that they came
honest.
out.
Let's be honest.
No,
And-
what
no,
it
no,
had,
no,
like-
but this is based on what you said,
Yeah.
right? Based on what you said, if people are getting better,
Yeah.
based on he's the first dude, he did it good, but someone did it better. We're gonna say between who did it better and who did it first, who's better?
at that. Yeah.
Period. Let's
But
be
we-
honest now. Stop the fuckery. That's why when everyone's getting mad at me about the Coogee rap post, I started laughing because you're not no because
Yeah,
you're
that's
not,
what's-
you're
yeah,
not being
for real.
honest.
Yo, the
Yeah.
first
Because
time
you
I ever
can't-
heard Eminem say, "We ain't eager to be legal, so please leave me with the key to your
Cheap
GP."
read.
Yeah.
I was like, "Whoa!" Like,
Yeah.
like it had to me that had never been
Yeah.
done. I
And
know
G
Cool
Rap
G
looks
Rap
at
did
his
that
shit. And G
and I
Rap is
know
like
that.
G Rap is like, yo,
He
that guy's
inspired him.
Yeah.
one of the guys that made him go, oh shit.
Yeah,
Out of all the rappers, G Rap was like, it was M.
yeah.
M
Yeah.
made me go, holy shit.
Yeah.
So
So there's an evolution to it.
Yeah.
So the point I'm making is it's always gonna get better.
Yeah.
People are gonna rap better,
Yeah.
but the beats are gonna bump better.
but what I'm saying
Problem
right
is-
now though, right now, now we'll use Eminem as the marker.
Mm,
As of right now,
yeah,
has it got better?
it'll keep getting
But
better.
has it from Eminem right now to where we're at right now?
Well, I mean, from Cool
is
G
it
Rap
better
to
right now?
Eminem, there-
Yeah, of
Production has
course.
got
But
better.
I'm saying from Eminem
Production's got better.
to right now,
and that's what I'm saying.
is
Has
the
the production
overall
got better
scheme better?
I prefer boom bap beats,
Mhm.
but like
But the production's
if,
better.
yeah, like if
No.
you listen sonically, like everybody looked at
The
Dr.
sonic
Dre when
quality,
the Chronic came
absolutely.
out because they're like sonically this has never been done
Yeah.
before. But now if like
We're not saying
a
the
Lil
skill
Baby
of
and
the-
Gunna song sonically hits
Yeah.
harder than the Chronic
Yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah. So here's the thing.
Eh,
Again, when I say hip hop is dead, I'm talking about the feeling,
Yeah.
right?
but what is
So
the real hip hop feeling? Because in the different eras, it's different feeling.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
Right?
nostalgia.
Because if we go to
Yeah.
Sugar Hill Gang period until about before Rakim,
Mhm.
that was hip hop.
Yeah.
You go Park Jams
That
up to
was
Sugar
that
Hill
was
Gang.
hip hop.
You can even go
That's
Sugar
hip-hop.
Hill Gang right
I'll
through,
tell-
right
But
through the
before that,
message.
there was no hip
I'll
hop.
tell you when I started
That was hip
noticing
hop.
it, okay?
And then afterwards,
This is the
Yeah.
evolution of technology.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all it is. It's not about art. It's not about
Yeah.
music. It's about the
Technology.
evolution of technology. So
Yeah.
in the studio, there was a point where
Yeah.
we started making beats that rappers could not compare to.
Yeah.
I remember listening to the Blueprint,
Mhm.
and no one was really talking about this at the time, but I remember, and I was just, you listen to it and you forgive it
Yeah.
because it's a classic and everyone
Yeah.
loves it and I
Yeah.
love it and whatever.
Yeah.
So you just ignored it. But in retrospect, I remember listening to the Blueprint and thinking, these beats are really blowing Jay-Z out of the water. Like I remember
wow.
thinking that.
Yeah.
I remember thinking they should turn Jay-Z's voice up a little. I
Mhm.
remember thinking these little tiny
Yeah.
things. And as hip hop started to progress, I started to realize like this level of beat
Yeah.
kept evolving and kept growing. The quality, the sonic, the boom, the oomph, until
Mhm.
here we are today,
Yeah.
where you don't even need to fucking rap because
No.
if that beat is
It's
the
knocking.
beat is hip hop now.
No, but the
You
beat
know what
has
I'm
always
saying?
been hip hop.
Nah,
It
not
always-
on
The
this
beat
level.
came before the
It
rapper,
always
though.
When the
has
beat
from the
Yeah, the
is
beat
get-go.
came, the break
than
beat
the
came
rapper.
before the rapper, though.
That's the whole.
That's a whole new era.
But that's the whole thing. It always came from the beat.
Yeah.
Because the beat wasn't hard. No one's gonna dance.
Yes, but the
And if they weren't fucking with break beats,
yeah, but the rapper had
the
a
rap-
part to play.
but
Yeah,
but
so
before
the
The
that,
rapper doesn't have a
though.
part to
no, but the
play
whole thing is,
anymore.
if the beat ain't left, the
Mm.
rapper ain't coming off properly.
The rapper don't need to be on the beat. That's what I'm in
Yeah.
2018.
Rapper don't even have to be on the beat.
Do you-
But that's what I said. It's
we've
going
never
back to
seen
where it
so
came
many
from.
stars.
It's going back to where it came from.
I feel what
Because
Mike
where
said,
it
because
came from,
if
it
you
was-
listen to like a Planet
yeah.
Rock, it was more
I
about
don't
the
know.
beat. It wasn't so much
I don't
on the
know.
rap.
I
on
think
Planet Rock.
Grandmaster Caz is doper than like G Herbo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he might be.
for
I
sure.
think he might
So
be
I don't know
better
if it's going
rapper.
back to where it came
But that's
from.
G. How many people during whatever?
Well, Kaz was like
hold
the
on.
innovator of
Okay,
lyricism.
so at that time, how many other people was he competing against?
himself, basically.
Okay.
Mm.
So
Maybe
afterwards-
Melly Mel.
So is he better than Rakim? Is he better than G-Rap? Is he better than Eminem?
See, but this is the conversation as to where it's
No,
two
why do
different
we
things.
keep changing the post?
Why do we always
We,
do
we,
this?
we should be able to compare, and it doesn't matter the era no more.
Yeah.
Because a lot of shit that's happening now, I can hear
The
that
thing
same
is,
type
though,
of music
The
in the
thing is
80s.
too, though, like,
Yeah.
Same
when was
type
the
of
last
style.
time?
No,
when's
I
the
get
last
what
time you
Mike's
heard a
saying, man.
Grandmaster Caz verse, though?
But it doesn't
like,
matter.
You don't know,
It
maybe
doesn't
he's writing
matter.
the illest shit
It's
you've
not
ever
Doesn't
heard in your
matter.
life
But
at
at the
his
end of
crib.
the day,
But he's like, fuck
based on
this
what
shit.
we have heard,
Cool Herc ain't never get a
because
royalty
then
check.
who we say, oh, he's this and that, and then we say, well, let's compare him to him. Oh, now we
No,
can't
but you
say
know
that.
what?
No, why
I think
not?
I think a lot of this boils down
gotta
to
be
what
honest
Septo was
about it
saying.
now.
You know what I'm saying? Because he said, I'm not necessarily into Run, I'm not necessarily into Kumudi, I'm more into Nas. You know what I'm saying? It's a generational thing.
Of course,
and a lot
of
of it
course.
is, again, what I was saying is where you're at in your life. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you're going through your formative ages,
Yeah.
is really when you
Yeah.
latch on to
Certain music.
kind of that music
Yeah.
for life.
Yeah.
There's going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of us that are going to be rolling around in wheelchairs in, let's say, 50 years from now saying, Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to
Bring
fuck
the
with.
motherfucking
You know what I'm
rockets.
saying? And the
Bring it.
nurses are going to be like, what are
Bring
you
it.
talking about? I don't get what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's generational.
Yeah.
For me,
You,
it's
you-
like,
you know what I mean? So that's why these kids
I
coming
have a
up.
counterpoint to that. I agree with you, by
Yeah.
the way. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree with it.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, so why is it when Wu-Tang Forever dropped, and the cult, this is
when
when
it
like,
first came out, too.
when Wu-Tang Forever dropped, I was a little kid,
Yeah.
but I was old enough to understand it was happening.
Yeah.
And the OGs around me were bumping it.
Yeah.
And it was, again, the cult, it was, you can taste the culture in the
Yeah,
air.
yeah,
yeah.
Right? So that is my era. When
Yeah.
I listen to Wu-Tang Forever, I get feelings, like emotional feelings.
Yeah.
of my
Nostalgia.
childhood.
Yeah.
However, at 32 years old, when I bump Wu-Tang Forever and then I bump 36 Chambers sounds way better to me.
Yeah.
To
me-
because
Right?
Yeah.
So there's certain things that aren't just generational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certain things
It's
are
just
just
fact.
fucking better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
for
for
sure. We
Yeah,
gotta
for
kind of
sure.
You gotta-
respect it
for
like
sure.
that, though,
You know
because
what I mean?
when we start bringing
Just
this
for the
not supposed to
record,
be my
Forever is
Yeah.
kind of, I'm not gonna say trash, but Forever's not
It
great.
was overrated.
Way over.
it was
But let me give you-
nicely produced.
let me give you like
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
scenarios.
horribly
though.
mixed.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
'cause
I
this-
like,
maybe
I like
nice-
the original
I
one.
don't even know if I
That-
say nicely produced.
that
No,
Like,
happens
it was
in
at the
place.
time. It's very clean production.
Some of it.
For the time.
Well,
It was
for the
good.
time.
Some of it's
Compared
like
to
rough,
36
too.
Chambers is a lot better than
Yeah, it was better than 36
Yeah.
Oh,
Chambers.
production was, yeah.
But the beats
But
is
that's
very
what made
horrible
36
production-wise.
Chambers so
Chamber.
dope. That's what made Cuban Link so
Yeah.
dope. That's what made Tikal so
Yeah.
dope.
Mhm.
Was that dirtiness. Like RZA's offbeat fucking
Yeah.
samples
Yeah.
and no
Yeah.
hi-hats and just like
Mhm.
it just was a vibe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they started letting the other dudes in the group produce and you start getting this cleaner production. It's like, don't get me wrong, like fucking Reunited and Triumph and shit, like classic beats. What,
Yeah, yeah.
Is Gridiron rap on that or is that Cal 2000? I can't remember. But there's like there's some joints on
When's
there
the
like
last time you bumped Black Shampoo?
Oh shit!
bad time. But
Stop
I do
fucking
remember.
back there.
Ho, ho, hey, hey.
But that happens in other genres of music too. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I
Songs
have friends
timeless.
who are really into like Metallica. I'm not so
Yeah.
much into Metallica, but you know what I mean? Like they hate the new shit and they're always like,
Yeah.
oh, the fucking Black albums, the fucking album, and this, that, and the other. And you know what I mean? So definitely there are the albums that come out. There's definitive albums. Groups
Yeah.
always put out definitive albums. Tribe Called Quest,
Yeah.
same thing.
But
You know
even
what I mean?
that,
Like,
like the other
Tribe
day,
has a couple definitive albums.
they're
so.
dope. But if I compare them to the Roots, now people argue because Tribe has this
right.
thing around them
Yeah.
that it's like you can't say that about
Oh
Tribe.
man, the Roots is probably. I mean,
Yeah, they
the Roots
can't
doesn't
fuck-
get
they can't fuck with
mentioned.
Black Thought.
Yeah.
The Roots do
Yeah.
not get
Roots
mentioned, and
album
Black
is
Thought
dope.
does not get mentioned enough for being one of the best rappers ever, and Roots do not get mentioned enough for being like the best hip hop
Yeah,
group
and
ever.
that's the
Up
thing.
there at least in that, you know what I mean, that category.
Yeah.
Consistency wise, come on, what they
Thought's
do,
crazy.
what they've evolved into, you know what I'm saying? Everything. Matter of fact, hold up, man. Let me get something from my book just to show y'all. You know me. This is just to show y'all how much of a hip hop head I am. What is that, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, show that to the camera.
Yeah, man.
I'm reading that hip hop literature right there. You know what I mean?
Show the
Like,
camera. Show
They're
the
holding
camera.
it down for
I read books. That's
for
what's
the
up. You know what I mean?
different genres of music and
Yeah.
they're like
But, you know,
crazy, man. They're
absolutely.
crazy.
I
But
showed to
again,
that one too. So you
people
see
just
it
treat
there.
it as music sometimes, or just treat it as samples or whatever the case may be. A lot of get lost in the sauce, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt, no doubt. But you know, at the same time though, like
What's the Gucci Mane saying?
What's that?
Gucci
About the
Mane.
lost in the sauce?
No, I don't know what it is.
It was crazy. I read
So,
that
like,
man's book too.
you can get lost in the sauce, but you can't be lost if you have the sauce or something fucked up like that.
Listen, Gucci Man is smarter than a lot of people give him credit
Yeah.
for, man. You know what I mean? I'm not even a front. Since that guy came out of jail, he got his life together.
I got nothing bad to say about Gucci Mane. Let's
Absolutely
just
nothing.
put that on record.
Trying to get that interview, make that
I don't
money.
even care about the interview. I just got
Yeah.
nothing bad to say about a few people, and he's one of them.
I just find the
I got nothing bad to say about Bumpy
evolution
Knuckles
of this,
either.
of this culture and music. It's kind of
Got
weird
you.
because I feel like it's like what's not evolved minus. Basically, when they started taking on breakers and the culture, like it just became about rappers.
Yeah,
That's for me when hip hop was dying.
I get you.
Like,
I
I
get
get
you.
it. The whole era Nas J was dope. It was dope. And I say they didn't leave them all complete, but you can
Right.
see it not being present as much anymore.
Right,
Like KRS One was trying to hold on to certain things,
right.
but overall, it wasn't. It became about money and drugs and all
I
kinds
can
of
let
other
him
shit.
know.
No, I absolutely feel it. I think that kind of started in the 80s, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that
When,
too.
it kind of started with the rise of like the crack era and the rise of the solo rapper versus the group.
Yeah.
You know, because they're kind of synonymous
Oh, shit.
in their rise. You know what I mean? They're kind of synonymous in their rise, but in rising with that, you kind of have the money era, the flashiness, the superstar. I want to be a superstar.
Yeah.
I want all eyes on me, the attention on me. So you start to get these kind of, these rappers. But by the 90s, you start to have these rappers who are really, like I said, it might sound contradictory to what I said earlier, but they were embracing the endorsements. They were embracing the other elements to make that money. Like, if you look at Method Man in 1994, that guy's a walking billboard for everything, for Nike, for St. Ides, for whatever jeans, so whoever is responsible. You look at Tupac, that guy's a walking billboard for Karl Kani sometimes, for Sashi at other times or whatever. So that's when these guys started really, doing certain things where it became more the focus was on the rapper, you know what I mean? The focus wasn't so much more on DJ Battle Cat. It wasn't on, this DJ. It wasn't on the breakers anymore. It wasn't on the graph artists. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might have had a Tame One, and, you might have had Artifacts who were the graffiti artists, but that was 1 out of 1,000, you know what I mean? And it just became about the rapper. It became about the personality. It became about the larger-than-life image, which is the same thing we had in rock with the whole hair rock era and, but that's what it boils down to again, disposable income. If you could get these 14 to 19-year-old teenage white girls and even some other color girls, but mostly those girls who have disposable income are gonna buy your poster, they're gonna buy Tiger Beat, they're gonna buy those magazines that your picture is in, you're gold, you got it, you're made. The companies are gonna throw everything at you, you know what I mean? And then you're gonna go from being the hood's favorite rapper to being the rapper that the hood hates because now you're oversaturated and you completely sold out and this, that, and the other.
Jay was oversaturated at one point.
Jay, and that's why I say Jay is the greatest of all time because Jay maintained. Jay was always ahead of the curve. Whoa. But Jay-Z was always ahead of the curve, you know what I mean, compared to others. He was always able to see or set the next trend. Until Drake came, Jay was the trendsetter for almost 20 years. Whoa. We got more cold shots.
This is a Drinking with Chris Thomas.
Shout out Chris Thomas is in the building again. We got more cold shots. But yeah, you know what I mean? That's kind of how any type of music is kind of like that. If you look at Elvis, who did Elvis use to get his come up? You know what I mean? Who was writing Elvis's songs? People don't know the guy writing Elvis's songs was a black dude. You know what I mean? And even just to get his stamp of approval, he had to do the Chitlin circuit like the other dudes. But once he blew up and went pop and blew that way, he's bigger than all that. Beatles, same thing. Rolling Stones, same thing. That's kind of the I guess you could say that's the architect for music. That's the route primarily that any genre kind of takes, or for the most part, the genres that made it. Just so happens that now hip hop is, I guess, the most monetized genre out.
Apparently it just surpassed rock and roll and
Yeah.
everything this past couple of years, as the #1 genre.
Well, because it costs a hell of a lot more money to put out an album as a rock band.
Yeah, you pay the whole band, you're paying everyone.
Right. If you look at the decline in rock music, over the last, let's say, 10 years, just in pop alone, it doesn't exist as much because it's so much cheaper to produce these other music. So these kids are growing up on, I'm definitely gonna take one. These kids are growing up on hip hop. You know what I mean? They're growing up on stuff that at least has some type of hip hop urban mix to it, produced by some hip hop producer, even if it's Christina Aguilera or something, right? So by the time they're, again, disposable income era and these movies are made for them, hip hop's the soundtrack, the stuff that's gonna sell it to them.
Kendrick Lamar, Black Panther.
Yeah.
Damn, son. Those are Maloney's beers.
That That actually sucked. That was a horrible move. But yeah, but that's pretty much what it is with, you know what I mean, with hip hop.
That in the washroom,
Shout out Chris Thomas. Yeah, shout out Maloney. Maloney, what's up? For a washing break, that's really weird.
Yeah, that's a long one too.
But other than hip hop, man, what else is going on, man? 'Cause we do this every week. We want to talk other topics other than hip hop, and we always get stuck on the hip hop thing. Shout out on
You called it too, man.
These guys came back just as Mike sat down.
It's okay.
Winding down, anyways. We got another like 20
Yo,
minutes
I'm
here.
taking a pilot seat here, Mike.
We're gonna talk about Fake Goldie and shit.
Yeah. Shout out John Tory. John Tory won
Yeah.
the mayoral
Legit.
election.
Where they at?
There you
That
go.
one for Seth?
Yeah.
Yeah, should be right there.
Oh, you got one? All right.
Careful about topic because
There you go,
Dusty
bro.
dropped a couple.
So shout out John Tory. He's
I'm
the
believing that.
re-mayor.
Should we shout him out?
Should have believed.
I
And
don't know, man.
he won.
Yeah,
Shit.
so I just said.
I'm not, I have nothing against him personally. Like, I don't know. People say
You know, it's
shit.
better than Keith.
I just don't like the whole like smart track and whole like subway delay
Yo, he
shit.
ain't,
That
he ain't
takes
even
time.
on smart track no more.
It takes time to build those things, man. Honestly, you do it overnight. No subway was built overnight.
Fam, like he didn't even mention smart track in his new campaign though.
He doesn't
Yeah.
have to. It's been in progress before he was mayor.
Nah, it ain't in progress. Though.
What
That's all
percentage
like,
of
It is,
people
man. It takes time, man.
voted?
Man, I heard that a very low percentage of people under 40 vote. I heard only like half of the city actually voted that should have or
I
could
guess.
have.
And
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I
right.
voted.
Do you know that statistic is a normal statistic?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
low.
Yes.
It's
It's
just what
not
it
like-
is.
It's the norm.
It's the majority.
the last one between
No, I know, like,
Ford
your
and-
parents-
I know my
Ford and
parents
Tory
don't
was
vote,
62%, I think was the
Yeah.
last one, but
We
that
have
was
a-
just because it was a really polarized election.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
For the most part, we have a notoriously low.
Yeah, turnout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, we a
No,
big city.
absolutely,
No one
man.
gives a fuck what shit to do here.
Doesn't that make you think is someone actually rounded up behind one person and got
Yeah,
the whole community of
Oh.
us to actually vote? We could basically just put whoever we want in
Mm.
office.
Yeah.
We
For
could,
real,
literally.
for real, for
People
real.
All
just have to
strength is in
organize on
numbers,
that
right?
level.
Yeah.
Just people are so divided right
Yeah.
now. You got the least chance of anybody coming together to do any good than
Wow.
you ever
And
had.
60% of the
Everybody
voters
just goes
don't
in.
vote at all.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the point. It should be like 95%.
Yeah.
5%
Yeah.
don't vote.
Well, I mean, people don't really. I guess they can't be inconvenienced, so to speak. Me personally, I try to vote every election that I get the opportunity to do it.
Since I was
Some people just can't
18,
be
I would have
inconvenienced.
if they didn't pick my birthday to be the fucking.
But yeah, man. So you
You
know,
could have
Tory.
did advanced voting.
Nah,
You could've-
man.
I did that.
I wasn't that.
Yeah. I was just
I
like-
don't want to fuck Faith that.
I just
bad.
wanted to get it out of the way, man. I was just like, I'm not.
Did you?
waiting.
You didn't even vote. I was gonna ask
Nah,
you if
fuck
you went and
no.
voted for it. But apparently, she got like 26,000 votes.
Yeah.
How you guys feel about that?
Hey, man, people should have to
26,000.
Yo, that's,
support.
that's like
Sounds-
half of what Tory got, so that's alright.
That's just, you know.
That's not half of what Tory got.
Yeah, he got like 40,000.
No, man, you got
Exactly.
300,000 votes.
Oh, okay.
Almost
okay.
Wow, people
Yeah, you
really
got
are
almost
on his
400,000 votes.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
40%. That's right.
Yeah, Kisamat had about half of what he had. She had
Yeah,
like
that's what I was
100
saying. Yeah.
No, I was talking about Faith.
Oh,
Golden,
the Nazi
Kisamat.
bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And is she really a
okay.
Nazi? I'm just throwing out there devil's advocate. Is she really a Nazi? Show the proof.
Yo, apparently she's been on like talk shows and blogs and stuff that are straight Nazi
Oh,
blogs.
have you
Mike's
seen- have you seen
Mike's gonna
them?
do the knowledge on you right
I
now.
know.
I think
no,
she-
I'm
No,
not
no, me
plays
personally, because I don't
too-
give a fuck about politics. I haven't seen it, but like
But that's the
my
thing.
coworker today was like, yeah, she's read that shit. She's like, yeah, this bitch is a pure Nazi.
But what
And
I'm saying
like,
is
oh,
this, right?
word.
I've watched a lot of shit that she's been on. I watch a lot of alt-right, so-called alt-right videos, hear their perspective and shit. All I'm saying is, unless you watch it, it's hard for you to say if she is or she isn't, or anyone is.
I think
But if
everyone
it's
should
hard to
reserve
say,
judgment on
isn't
anything
she
till
that-
they've seen
No, no.
anything.
Well,
She
definitely-
definitely. What I'm saying
Like,
is, you
straight
gotta
up.
actually see it to make your own
Yeah,
judgment.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
real,
problem
that's
with
real.
fucking
defending her,
social
I'm not
media,
defending
Yeah,
her.
man.
that's real. That's real. That's
Right?
real.
Like, what's that guy, Jared Taylor? The other day, I was watching something where he was part of this movie called Race Rights or whatever, Race Wars. It's mostly a black supremacy thing, but he was interviewed and he spoke with people.
Who's this?
Jared Taylor.
Who's Jared Taylor?
He's supposedly a white nationalist, white supremacist.
Okay.
He has a thing called American Renaissance.
Yeah.
And what he wrote about it, he's basically saying black people are not targeted. That's his perspective. But he's a white nationalist. He doesn't believe that this is what's happening.
Right.
But then you have and he doesn't believe there's a race war based on what he knows. But
But he's a white nationalist.
Richard Spencer, he had said that. So people within those so-called circles have different philosophies.
So it's
You
all
just-
fake news.
No, all you gotta do is listen to what they gotta say
Yeah.
and go from there. Even what they
Well, that's,
do.
Yeah.
that's what
I
everyone's
bet
got to
that guy's
do.
bi-curious
If you
too.
want to dig
So
deeper,
random.
like it's so easy to see a headline that says this person is this,
Yeah.
and then you feed into that.
Mhm.
Even Steve Bannon, he had a meeting with a bunch of freaking black entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
and I watched the whole video, and I was like, the way they're trying to paint this dude is not exactly.
No, it's just because he was a Trump
Well,
supporter.
what I
Yeah.
think is happening is
And he was part of that website.
what I think
Breitbart.
what I think is happening is these people understand who their market is. They understand who they have to market their videos, who they have to appeal to, and whose pockets they have to put their hands in. Now, does that make
Anyone
them
trying
all
to market
hold on.
anything off racism though? That's
Hold on,
the
let me
worst
finish,
businessman in the
yo,
world.
Let me finish. Let me
No,
finish.
they make a lot of
Somebody
money,
people.
bro.
Let me
They
finish.
make a lot of
Let me
money.
finish. Because you know what I'm saying? Like, if you can convince a person that they are better than the most educated person in another race just based off their skin color, you can keep your hand in their pocket for life. And that's what these people, some of them are doing. Now, does that mean that these people are Nazis? I don't know. Nationalists, you know what I'm saying? We'll call them nationalists instead of Nazis, but nationalists, I would say yes. But what I would say is some of these people are taking advantage of the idiocy, the lunacy, the stupidity of some of these people who really have these notions and now feel comfortable enough to express this stuff in today's day and age. And some of these people are seeing themselves and saying, you know what? There's money. There's a gold mine in me telling these people to go out there and hate these people and lead them
But yo,
down the
fam,
road
fam,
hating these
like
people. And I'm
now-
going to cash in on that.
Now you're just calling a whole group of people that might be educated stupid because they have certain beliefs. Like maybe they're just not surrounded by the culture that we are in Toronto, where
That's facts. Small
where
towns in
people are like,
Canada.
yo, I'm surrounded by
are
people of
pretty
different
fucking racist.
backgrounds and religions and creeds and all that
Okay.
here. So like, I don't feel these ways that someone from like deep Bush, Alabama might feel. You
Well,
know
put
what I
it
mean?
like
Like,
this, though.
No, but you know what I'm saying? At the end
Explain
of the day,
Faith
though,
Goldie, explain Richard Spencer. He
Right.
said that
Richard Spencer came up with his idea here in
Inspiration
Toronto,
for
sitting
the
on a bus
alt-right.
because he was the only white guy on the bus. Faith Goldie from Toronto, Gavin McInnes, the guy who founded Vice
Yeah.
magazine. You know what I'm saying? This guy all of a sudden is now the leader of the Proud Boys. What is it about Toronto all of a sudden that's breeding this in people? It's not people being isolated, it's people being surrounded.
because we
all
are a
of a
real
sudden.
multicultural city.
so that
Right,
Maybe
and
these guys couldn't fight growing up and they just got beat the fuck up. And they're like, all right, now I got some
Nah.
power. I'm fucking.
A lot of it
I'm
boils
fucking
down
shit
to
up.
a lot of it boils down to
Little
again,
man
they
syndrome.
are,
White
you know,
boy
saying
from
yeah, whatever.
Shoreham that
But a lot of it
couldn't
boils
fight.
down to them being able to keep their hand in the pockets of
Yeah.
individuals. They're looking at people saying, you know what? Yeah,
But
I
to
can
me-
convince them this, and I could take their money.
You have
I
to
agree.
remember, stupidity is not parallel with education.
Right.
No.
There's a lot of
Stupid
stupid
is
parallel
people
with
with
Yeah,
ignorance.
100%,
It's
100%.
parallel with ignorance.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, like
it's what you
Exactly.
choose to be privy to and what you choose
that's
not
what it
to.
is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't. You can't really use the excuse that homeboy's from Timbuktu and that's why he hasn't
That's
seen
what you
another
see,
black
bro.
person.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You know that doesn't make any sense.
No.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot
you're
of people
pissed.
from small towns that never had a black person in their small town, and they don't hate black people.
Exactly.
You understand? So like,
They just
their
don't-
education
they just
level,
They just don't know.
Right.
or their geographic location
Ignorance.
has nothing to do with
Yeah.
Right.
whether or not they hate.
No,
it
like,
or
yo,
not.
I grew up part of my life, like, in a town called Cannington, Northern Ontario. And,
That sounds
like,
like a hell
there
of
was
a.
literally one other black person in the school. Me and him got in a fight. It wasn't like a race thing. It was the winner got 3 smokes, a lighter, and 75 cents.
Yo, let's fight after the podcast.
But yo, like, so.
3 smokes, a lighter, and 75
So
cents
anyway,
for a
but
fist
yo,
fight.
I was
Damn,
the
bro.
only black kid in the whole fucking county.
Yeah,
And
he whooped your ass.
everyone up there, like, yo, the first day, yo, check this, think of this stuff. The first day I get into the school, though, there's kids wearing red bandanas, and like, I'm coming from the city, and like back then, like
I wore red
1999, I was
bandanas
rolling
when I was
crip back
little.
then, right? Like, I ain't into no gang shit no more, but I rolled up and see all these kids wearing red bandanas up in the sticks, right? So I walk in with like just draped in blue the first day of school, like, yo, wagwan.
Did you walk in doing a C-block?
Nah. But yo, these kids were like, yo, blood, cuz, what the fuck are you doing? Like, yo, they literally said blood, cuz. And I'm like, yo, what?
It's funny that y'all were so emotional about these comments.
Dude, like, I didn't see fuck, dog.
You don't know.
Yo, but
me.
yo, what it was is these kids from Sticks, Ontario grew up watching BET and shit.
What
And thought
block
this
were they
was
fighting
this
over
was
in
what's
the
up. You know what I
Sticks?
mean? Like,
Yo, hold on.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you were.
nah, come from Toronto. I just grew up there for like a couple
No,
years.
but I'm saying
Snoop
you weren't a
fan,
real
and they were
Crip,
Suge Knight fans.
I'm from T-Dog, bro. I'm from T-Dog. Yeah,
Chris,
G and D up.
Were y'all beefing over a block or a bush?
Yeah, that was a bush still. That was a bush still.
They were beefing over 75 cents.
It wasn't a bush to hustle at.
And a lighter.
It was a bush to piss in, wasn't it?
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's
My
messed
dick's already
up.
out, fam. What you say, cuz?
Yeah.
So
My
they-
dick's already out.
So you guys
No,
were
but no,
gang
these kids
banging
was-
out in the booth?
These kids were
Like,
straight
what the
up.
hell?
These kids were straight up gang banging. They
For real
thought
though, do
up
y'all
in the
think,
sticks. You know
y'all
what I mean?
think there's
Like,
Bloods and Crips anywhere outside of?
not
I'm not even gonna.
Yo, like,
talk
yo,
about
they
don't follow the
Compton,
same
I'm
rules.
just
That's
saying,
Yeah,
All
like,
right.
yo, like,
Is
I know Bloods
there
and Crips in
Bloods and Crips?
Toronto that
They have
fucking
them,
chill. You
they
know
have
what I
them in
mean? Like,
Japan.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
And
and I'm not
everywhere.
saying the homeboy can't kill you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because Matt, if you're wearing blue, I know people who are wearing brown where I grew up. You know, whatever the color is,
Yeah.
they can kill you,
Yeah.
right? But
money's money, man.
legitimate Bloods and Crips,
Nah, man.
nah.
No.
Yeah, I know. Yes, yes, yes.
Well,
Yeah,
that's-
no,
The
no,
Bloods and
no,
Crips in
no.
Toronto, yeah, we got them, but they'll do business
He
together.
has a blue bandana and a gun, so he's dangerous.
Yeah,
but it's
but
not
the way I
yeah,
see
it
them right
ain't
now-
like LA Bloods and Crips.
Yeah,
Nah,
it's
not
The way
at
I
all.
see them right now is like New York street gangs in like the 70s, right?
That's what
like
Toronto's always been,
five
man.
of them got the name Savage, and
Yo,
like, five of them got like
Toronto's
you know
got
what I
the
mean?
five
Like it's
boroughs,
like
too.
all these gangs who
Nah,
subbed off
see-
into other
see,
gangs.
what
and
I
shit.
would
So
say
that's
to
what happened with
this,
Bloods and
maybe.
Crips. Like they just subbed off different people, say they're that, start up their own things, but it's
Were
just
they
like
not
an
inspired by hip hop.
What I will say to this,
I would
what
say
I will
so.
say to this is two things.
How
Number
can you get
one,
otherwise?
Mike, what neighborhood you from?
For me?
Yeah, what neighborhood you grew up?
Part though, man.
And
What
Park
do you
there
mean?
was
I thought you
always,
lived in a junction.
No,
No,
I'm
hold on,
part,
hold on.
bro.
and Park there was always a
I moved
Crip.
to Junction when I was
Park there,
30, bro.
but
shout out to the junction, the
Hold on.
hipsters.
but Mike, Park there was always a Crip neighborhood, right?
From what I know, I'm not sure. Yeah, from here.
Yeah,
yeah,
from
yeah,
from the
yeah.
90s
From
it was.
time,
All
from
right,
time,
so
yeah.
that's so number one. So they were banging back then. You know what I'm saying? I got family who grew up with Mike, and that's how I know because he was affiliated with that, and I knew back in the early 90s. I'm talking, you know,
So
whatever.
Mike was
the
knowing
neighborhoods.
back in the day.
No, I'm saying
I wasn't involved in none of
that's
that
just his
shit,
hood he
bro.
grew up in.
Mike-
So
Mike
but what I would
the
say is
girls
this.
just love
Hold
the
on,
way
hold
he
on, hold on.
spit.
I was just
What I would say is
a
this:
man.
what y'all need to do when you think on that is go back and listen to Ice Cube Summer Vacation. That's how that gangbang started. Dude said, you know what? I can't make my money in LA. Let me fly up to Seattle. Let me fly up to St. Louis. Let me fly up to Toronto, put in that work, set up block here, put this guy on, tell him the rules, and start my set
That's
here.
100%.
That's
Hell
the same shit
yeah.
Jay-Z
That's
talks about on
100%.
Reasonable Doubt,
Hell
going
yeah.
up to
One of
Maryland
the
and shit,
first
you know what I mean?
Yes.
gangs I heard of.
Set up
People
shop
set
with a
up-
quarter
yes.
of rock, here's the plan.
Yo, like,
And one of the
Three
only
straight
ones I
whites
heard
slaughtered
about
the
But
black.
here's the difference.
Yeah,
Here's
yeah,
the difference
like-
about Toronto and other cities, you know, compared to whatever. We also, I mean, now I think we have like more of a Somalian gang issue, but we had Jamaican gangs as well as
Shower
those
bus,
Bloods
yeah.
and
Yeah,
Crips.
yeah,
So
blah, blah.
we had different things. We had
Yeah, yeah.
some of that American gang culture, but we also had the Caribbean, and then we have some of the
Yeah,
African
straight
gang
up,
I
man.
culture.
say
you know what I'm saying?
Caribbean
So
culture really is
And
like
then we had-
a
we also-
more forefront culture.
we also
In
had a little bit
Toronto,
of the
yeah.
mafia as well. Like Montreal is a big
Montreal's a mob
mafia
city,
city.
mob and
Like
biker,
Montreal's
mob
a
and
big,
biker.
big mob city. So yes, Canada does have
You know what's
those ties and
crazy
those
about these like
affiliations,
mafia cities and stuff?
Mm.
Like nowhere in North America is it like people aside from maybe like Boston, even them, they're really immigrants too. But like nowhere really like it's people who have come in who create these gangs. Like it's never like like the French mafia isn't a bunch of Frenchmen like
yeah.
like you know what I mean? Like it's like
Hell's Angels.
Yeah.
Hells Angels
Yeah.
and triads or like you know what I
Yeah.
mean, something like that. It's like someone who's just like,
Triads,
you just set up here.
Japanese,
man.
And it's funny like you refer to it like you know what I mean, like a French
Yeah.
gang, but it's like French motherfuckers like.
Yo,
Hey,
tell that to
man.
the Sorrel chapter of HA, bro.
Yeah. Listen, man.
yo,
Most
yo,
of
yo,
the
deep down
most of the
time.
illicit marijuana
Yo,
that's grown in
man,
this
biker
country is
stories
going
are
out in
crazy,
Quebec.
man.
Most of the
Yeah,
bikers
I
in
try
this
not to
country are
talk
from
about those
Quebec,
on
other than
Nah,
like West.
of course not, bro. That's,
You know,
that's
like, yeah.
different shit.
So
There's Hells
Canada
Angels
has
all
its-
over the place.
No,
Everywhere,
definitely,
man.
definitely. But I think like Canada
Support
has
your
its-
local
its-
agent.
I'm
Yeah,
not-
but Hells
I'm
Angels
not a
started
dude.
in the fucking States. They started in
Cali.
no, in the Bay. What fucking Oakland?
That's right. This dude from
Hells Angels
South
started.
Africa
Yeah.
who was wearing a 1% ring. I didn't know that was about. He's from South Africa. He has this ring. I'm like, there's Hells Angels out there? He goes, no, we just support them. But if I want
Okay.
to join Hells Angels, I can.
Support
Okay.
your
Yeah.
81,
It was
guys.
crazy. Like, This
Money
shit is
gotta
like
get made,
worldwide.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, wow, how's it just in South Africa?
But see, that's something
It's
I
not
feel
even,
like
they're not even there.
that's something worldwide that I
Yeah.
feel is more organized. Like the Bloods and the Crips are
Yeah.
organized worldwide.
No,
It's an
to a certain
influence
extent.
that
Yeah.
people just take that
Yeah,
It's
name.
organized in LA.
That's why I compared it to like New York gangs of the
It
70s
ain't
because
even
like
organized
there'd be a
in
gang from this
LA.
block, so instead of like
Yeah, they
the
got the
Savage Nomad, you're the
censorship,
Savage
but
this,
they
and like you know
rules
what I mean?
that
Like
they-
you
they
kind of
don't
almost.
surprise, bro.
It's like how
Yeah.
everyone's
Yeah.
Lil and Young in hip hop right now.
They don't
Yeah.
follow the same.
Oh well, this guy's Lil, this guy's Young, so I'm Lil. This like, come on, who names himself Lil Baby?
Yeah, but you know what's gonna happen?
Like yo, I don't like I fuck with Baby and Gunna, like I play this shit whatever.
Yeah,
But
that's what I just
Yeah.
seen him
That
name
is-
today. It was like a bunch of like
Like, can we
gangster looking midgets.
can we agree
And
that
like, yo,
that's
I
the
was
worst
like,
rap
yo,
name of all time?
Lil's new album's not coming up short.
Like
But when it comes to
worst
stuff like
rap
that,
name of all time.
when it comes to stuff like that, again, same thing with hip hop. Like Bloods and Crips are, they're around the same ages as hip hop. Now we're getting into the era where these guys are getting smarter, so they're affiliated or they're banged, but they're like, hey, I gotta go to school, or I gotta send this dude from
Well,
our
you think
block
it's more
off to be the lawyer.
organized than-
It's getting more organized
Oh,
than
for
you
sure.
believe. It's getting organized in a way because money, bro. Money organizes things.
I don't know if
Even
Tekashi. I don't know if
gangs here do
Tekashi's
that now,
blood
man.
set is like in cahoots with the
You're
pot
talking about
rules
what
of
you
fucking
see.
like.
You're thinking about what you
Crunch-
see and not what
like
goes on behind the
Crenshaw.
scenes. You're not thinking about these
There's a
kids
lot
that are
of
getting
jokers
sent
out
off to
there,
school to be lawyers, and these kids are getting sent off to school to be the execs and whatnot, but they're still going to be banging. Same thing as like the Yakuza in Japan. You know
Like
what I'm saying?
Snoop
Like,
Dogg, when he said he went to Japan, he's like, the motherfuckers tripping out. Damn, like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
This shit is crazy.
Nah,
Chris Brown's a blood.
I assume
No,
that's
absolutely,
American
that's-
influence.
Yeah.
I saw like
It's
even as a teenager, guys.
Yeah.
I said they're dangerous, but that's American.
Yeah.
Well, they even
Yeah.
at, like, talk to,
Yo, like
which
even
dude
like,
was it
yo,
from
like, you know,
early
what's he, a
NWA? The
Crip
guy
or
from the
some
Wrecking
shit?
Crew. What, Lonzo? Was that his name?
Well, he's a
So,
Crip
like,
with
he,
the
like,
blood.
they
I
asked
don't
him, he's
know,
like,
I don't know.
like,
I
when
don't
did
know,
you
I've
really
been out
see
to
gang,
fucking
like,
Philly, and it's
Yeah.
like
fucking
after
dangerous.
NWA basically came out in gangster rap, did you see like an
Philly's
increase
dangerous, though.
in like
Yeah.
gangs? He's like,
Wherever
oh
beats
fuck
funk
yeah. He's
in
like,
Philly,
Yeah.
gang banging was a
respect.
thing. He's like, but it wasn't like like it was culture to where it was. He's like, but it wasn't like a
It was a whole
mainstream
city, yeah.
thing. He's like, after like
Hip hop.
the gangster rap
Right.
came out, he's like,
Yeah.
gangs became like
Yeah.
mainstream.
People-
Well, what I would
See it.
do,
Everyone was in a gang.
I'd
Yeah.
recommend every, and
That,
for the
yo,
most
that,
part,
sorry, that goes back to what I was just saying. Like when I lived in that little rural fucking town, these kids were all dressed, draped in red, thinking they're Bloods because they watch fucking BET all the fucking time.
right. So
You know
what I would
mean?
say
Like,
to these kids, what I would say to fathers out there, specifically, I don't want to say specifically, but if you have young black kids or whatever, at around 12 years old, especially if they're boys, give them the book Monster by Senya Shakur. This book changed my life. This
Do you
book,
have it?
no, I gave it to my best friend, and said both of us read it, and we're like, all right, yo, fuck that shit.
Don't wanna read
This
that.
book changed my life, bro, because I read it when I graduated grade 8, going into high school, and the book starts when he's in grade 8, graduating, going into
That's
high school.
Pac's
His
mother, right?
initiation, no,
No.
not his brother,
Yeah.
but like an older dude in the hood. But his initiation, that same night he graduated grade 8, was to go out and he had to shoot up a rival house. This
Yeah.
guy was shooting up the rival house, and when the guys came up to shoot back, while all the other old gangbangers are running away, he's running towards the house shooting.
Yeah, yeah. Yo, I
And
heard about this dude. Yeah.
It was very descriptive, you know what I'm saying? And it was
Yeah.
descriptive enough to scare me away from the direction that certain people I was going up with were going.
Yeah.
So I read it at a very formative age where it was like, word, and it told me everything about gang culture where it was like, it's real, you know what I'm
You know
saying?
what the
So I
crazy
read
shit
that
is?
and I read Malcolm X, right, at about 13, 14, and it was like, okay, word, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
it just implemented something in my head. And a third book I would recommend on that would be The Alchemist.
Word.
And you know what I'm saying? Everybody gotta read that book. But Monster by Senya Shakur, I definitely recommend if you have young sons or teenage age sons, give them that book so they can understand what this culture is and they can decide for themselves if they even want to put themselves through that torture.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is once you get that deep into shit. It's torture and you can't get out. You know what I mean? It looks appealing, but you're getting trapped in something.
Well, and everything,
So-
it's all, at the end of the day, that's why I think one of the best hip hop songs of all time is Just to Get a Rap by Gangsta.
Oh,
Because that
yeah.
is legit, like, that is exactly what that is. Like, everybody, like, how many of these dudes that are, like, gangbanging and shit do you really think go to bed at night being like, I want to murder people?
You know what's
what I mean?
behind
It's
that
all
song?
about keeping up a reputation,
Yeah.
upholding, you know what I mean?
Rep
Whatever
your
beat,
set.
you know what I mean? Like,
do you know the actual story behind that song?
no.
So Guru got jacked for his Jeep. And one day they were driving around,
Sounds
they
like kind
found
of-
a dude who jacked him for a Jeep and they're following around or whatever. And something happened where like somebody else wound up like shooting the guy or some shit like that, you know what I mean? But it was based off like Guru getting his shit
Oh,
jacked,
shit.
them trying to find the guy, and then that guy who jacked his shit getting murdered like a week or
I
two
wonder
later.
if Bumpy Knuckles. Never mind. Yo,
But that's a
Black
crazy
Poet
story
started
on
getting
that,
a lot
man.
of primo beats in the mid '90s.
Oh man, shit gets real, man. It's scary, man.
Absolutely.
No, but that's why
man.
in like that joint, I think. Well, the third verse version, not the one that's on Step in the Arena, but the one
Yeah.
that comes with the third verse and it's a little better produced. That's one of the best hip hop joints of all time. Like,
Yeah.
because it's like you can apply that to so many situations. Not the direct story, but you know what I mean. It's just
Yeah.
it's so much like, and that's why I think gangsta rap had such a huge influence everywhere. Like, do you know I grew up in a suburban white town? Do you know how many kids like I grew up with a
That's
kid? I
like
won't
Chris's
call him
story.
out by name, but we used to call him Cop Killer because it rhymed with his last name. And he always wore a red bandana, and he always tried to convince us he was in the Bloods. But
That's the exact same shit Chris
but
is
it was like no, but you know what? No, but it was one of those things where like none of us thought you were that.
Yeah.
We humored it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're like, okay, yeah, let
them pull that shit.
like
down.
Cop
That's
Killer
the
be Cop
problem
Killer.
with white
But-
America.
and he was always like, yeah, you know, like my brothers in the Bloods in Toronto. Like that's what anyone in like a 20 fucking like
They would shout out Regent Park, even though they didn't
anyone
know
in,
where
like,
Regent Park was.
basically anyone in a
Sure,
small
ham
town,
up.
anyone in a small town in Southern Ontario in high school claiming to be Blood, that's their backstory. Like, yeah, my cousin back in T-Dye, he's and it's always Jane and Finch. It's never anywhere else. Yo, my nephew, he got me in the Bloods. Like he's at Jane and Finch right now. Like, yo, they bangers. Like we killed like last week. I shot someone's head and it exploded. And just like, yeah, I cop.
I like how his nephew.
Nephew. That's how bad their stories be, though. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, yeah, whatever,
So
Blood.
did you like the name Cop Killer? Like he was like, or you said Cop Killer?
Whatever,
Yeah,
cuz. Whatever, cuz.
He was like, yo, that's my name, Cop Killer. Like you like that?
We didn't directly call him it.
Or
Like,
by his back?
Did he tell you to call him that?
no, we just called him that.
Behind his back.
Not-
Yeah.
Got that.
Oh,
We're
so,
going to
so
the Cop Killer.
he wasn't just a little punk bitch that wanted to be called a cop killer then.
So
Yo,
what
I
did-
got respect for the dude now.
so
He's
what-
grown up,
So what did he
I'm not
call?
gonna call him
So
out
what
like
did
that.
he want people to call him as a Blood? Like did he have a
Top
street
Killer.
name?
Top
He just-
Biller.
He went by his like name. and
He didn't
shit.
have a street name?
Nah.
What the
Yo,
fuck's
so
wrong
you
with this
ain't
guy?
no said that.
He should have been going by
Yo, big up
Takashi
the Cop Killer,
6'9".
man. Big up
Hey.
Cop Killer, man.
Yeah, that's
Yo,
what's
shout
up,
out to
man.
Cop Killer, man. Yo, next time I'm back in Bell City, let's link up for a drink, fam. It's been a long time.
That's
But he
hilarious,
knows
I
bro.
want to know about your rap sheet now.
He doesn't know. He
Your
doesn't.
pop police are hot out here.
Does he know that he's Cop Killer though? Does he know that he's
I
Cop?
don't know.
Listen, these small towns sound wild. There's
Not to me.
I know,
I don't think he knows.
Yo,
but,
the small towns is wild out here still. Like
maybe.
man's a fucked up. They got nothing to do but get fucking drunk,
That's
high,
what I
and
heard,
steal
man.
things.
I heard kids in small towns do more drugs than kids
Yeah,
in the
like,
city.
yo,
Oh,
they
yo,
literally,
bro.
they literally
Why
have
do you think I
nothing
do
to
so
do
many
but
drugs?
get drunk, get high, steal things, maybe fucking sell some drugs here and there. Like that's all they do.
I think doing drugs is fine as long as you can be productive.
Okay.
As long as you can be somebody who still you don't
Hi,
you
Chris
go
Thomas
to
in the
work.
building.
You know what I mean? You have aspirations. You have shit you work on. Like if you're
Yeah.
one of those people who just gets high and sits in your room all day, then like go like sit in your four-cornered room and stare at candles and just
Man, I'm
fucking
going to a rave on
just do
fucking
that.
Saturday.
hey
Word.
Still have those?
do some Molly.
Yeah,
for me.
yo, it's like it's
Yo,
like
rest
a
in peace,
401
Comfort
mini
Zone.
go-kart thing,
Yeah.
and it's Andy C and shit on Saturday. at the
Word. Shout out
go-kart
Andy
thing.
C. That
Yeah.
guy's been going for like 20 years, man.
Awesome,
I remember
bro.
seeing Andy C back in the 90s, man. Shout out Andy C. He's
Yo.
dope. I've met him. He's a cool dude.
I'm gonna
man.
try to do some ecstasy though. I haven't fucking,
Yo.
I haven't seen that shit in so
I've
long.
been
I'm gonna
looking for
try and find
ecstasy,
some.
fam. I've been looking for that.
Yo,
Yo, I
trust me,
used-
bro.
There was like a point in high school where I literally did ecstasy every day for a year and a half.
Can we just
Yo, I used to sell it.
love that
Trust me,
shit.
I'm on
Yeah,
that tip
man.
too. I used to
Remember
sell
like
that
the
shit.
pink dolphins and the fucking.
Oh, buddy, yeah, the yellow
Pikachus.
Pikachu's for the
Yay!
You guys are wild, man.
Shout out to Yellow
I have a friend
Pikachus.
who was fucking with
Yeah,
Yellow
we got like the
Pikachu.
white side of the table, the
Wow.
black side of the table.
Yeah, we're like,
you
hey,
fuck
I don't know
with
about these
ecstasy.
drugs.
I had a friend,
Yeah.
brother. He used to take E&G and all that shit.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
what
out of
small
the
town
hospital
people
because of
do.
that shit.
Yeah, no,
The
that
difference is-
fucks with your liver. and
What
shit.
I noticed
You've done the
Serious,
alphabet of
man.
drugs, bro.
But like,
I
I
took
ain't
quite a
done,
bit.
I ain't done E
You've
for
done
like
acid,
20 years.
barbiturates, cocaine.
I'm like,
What's D? What would
I'd rather not do Molly.
Say
I
what?
can get Molly, no
Acid,
problem, but I'm like,
barbiturates,
I want
cocaine. What would the letter
ecstasy.
D be?
I wish I did DMT.
Oh, there you go. D for
I
DMT.
wish. I haven't tried that yet.
I heard it's
But yeah,
Yo,
that's the
yo,
crazy
yo.
thing.
Yes,
People-
you do,
people who
and
grow
no,
up
you
in the
don't.
city,
Yeah.
it's like they do drugs, or some of them don't, but
Yeah.
they're not proud of it. When you grow up in
Yeah.
a small town, you're like proud. You're like, yeah, I got my rap sheet right here. I've been taking notes
wow.
since I was 13. Like, yo, on July
Yeah.
14th of 2002, I popped 12 ecstasies and smoked 12 bong rips. And you're like, no, I'm just playing. But you know,
No,
white
that's
people
how
are
it
corny
is.
like
You're
that.
not even
You're
playing.
like, that's
You're
like,
not even playing.
I know that white people are like proud of their drug use. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
Doesn't
Or like,
matter.
or suburban people.
My whole hip
I'm
hop
afraid of
career is
drugs.
based on my drug and alcohol abuse.
Wow.
Yeah, it is though.
I feel you, though.
Yeah.
That's the funny shit about it. It's like, I don't know, it's just crazy. It's crazy how like, you know, growing up in a city compared to growing up in a small town, the differences and like, you know what I mean?
Drug use.
Yeah, you can go be a cop killer in Brantford, but you don't take the lessons of hip hop where it's like it's not cool to be the junkie. You're like, nah.
Yeah.
When Ayo Fieo came out by Andre Nicotina, that was the suburban jam, yo. I'm telling you, small town, fucking, yo, everyone was bumping that.
That's crazy, homie. That's crazy. Now, what time we got?
You're like, whoa.
Oh, so we running
We
around
crossed our time.
We're about
Everybody
that time.
introduce yourselves, let them know where to find you, all that nonsense.
All right, who wants to go first? All right, fuck it, I'll go first.
Do
DJ
it.
D's Nuts,
Go.
Dustin Wayne, you know who the fuck I am.
Twitter.
Yeah, man, shit. Got my birthday coming up on Saturday.
Yeah.
So do
Instagram.
something. I don't know, I'm not naming my Instagram, Twitter, and all that stuff. November 9th, that's what's really important, man. November 9th, we're
So
doing
the
a Scorpio
Virgo
Bash,
Scorpio
Club 120.
Bash.
Hey.
And yeah, man, we got a bunch of people on it. I'd list them all off right now, but my mind's blank. And yeah, I want to say shout out to my man Septo for coming through and you know what I'm saying? My man
Hey.
Septo, you know what I'm saying? Another
Make
decaying
some noise
crown.
for Seth.
Make sure you go to septo.com and check out
.ca,
another
man.
septo.ca.
Yeah,
sorry,
man.
we're in Canada,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
check out another
Damn,
decaying
man.
crown.
Damn.
And yeah, man, let him say something, man.
So yeah, this is the part where I'm supposed to say go to people.ca and watch another Decaying Crown. And that's it. That's all I got, man. Just
Or-
watch the documentary.
Now you could just revert them to Dustin's channel.
Yeah,
Be
yeah,
like,
yeah. Dustin's having a birthday party next
Hey.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, just share it, man. At the end of the day, like, we don't got a lot of hoopla. I'm historically not good at promoting myself. So just septo.ca, there's a movie there. It's great. Go watch it. Go share
Shout out to everyone who's a great artist but too humble to promote themselves. We the real MVPs.
Stone, what you got going on, bro?
I don't care anymore, man.
Ah, I love it. I love this
Yeah,
guy's
just-
attitude.
Yeah.
I'll take the fucking mic.
Yo, Mike became such a devil's advocate and like both side of the story person. He doesn't even know what he's doing in his own life anymore. He's like, I was just like,
Honestly-
to brush or not to brush?
Honestly,
That
I
is the
just don't care
question.
anymore, man. Like this whole game and everyone, it's just whatever, man. It is what it is.
Will you DJ my
That
wedding?
sounds like
Yeah.
my movie.
You
Yo,
so
of course he will.
basically what he's saying is he's gonna stay pissing people off on Facebook
I'm
because
just
that's
doing
what he
I'm
does
doing. Like,
daily.
at the end of the day, I know who was there and I know who wasn't there, and that's all it comes down to. What am I gonna do about it? You
Was
can't change.
KRS-One there?
Hell no.
I was there.
But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day,
When Mike Stone started his DJ career back in I don't know the year, but
History is
trust me,
history.
I was there.
history
I love
is
it.
history, and those who've been with the ride, they know what time it is. Who doesn't, go just Google, bro.
I feel you.
Hey.
I feel
Girls
you
know the way
100%,
you
my
spin,
brother.
bro.
I don't care if they do either. I make them dance anyway.
Hey.
Get them panties when I get girls fucking kissing and do all types of shit.
Make some noise for Mike Stone making girls kiss each other on the dance
That's
floor.
my boy.
Ain't nothing, man.
That's my boy.
Have you ever made two boys kiss each other on the dance floor?
I'm not. I don't
You had to
promote
go
that.
there.
Party shit.
I don't promote that. I don't promote that.
Yo,
He had to
anyway,
go there.
you be fucking, you be tuned in. I'm sorry to Chris motherfucking Thomas. I'm a fucking drunken fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, and you
I
smell.
was sober when I got here. But anyway, yo,
We'll
check me
call
out.
you Too Tall Boy Timmy.
Too tall, boy.
Well, you had like 3 of these. That's like
Those
Two
are
Tall Boys.
Those are tiny cans.
Yeah, they're really tiny.
Yeah, that's not even Two Tall
I
Boys.
ain't even fucking close to drunk.
One
yet,
tall
but
Tim.
Yeah, so you can all check me out at Drink with Chris. That's it. Just at Drink with Chris. because I'm smart and I keep my social media.
But one of your
fucking
social medias is Drinks with Chris.
No, that's just my email. Bro.
Oh, okay. Okay. See, I know this motherfucker like that.
My webpage? Oh, yo, I had my webpage is Drinks with Chris.
Hey, see, I knew I was onto something.
www.drinkswithchris.com. I think, anyway. I could be wrong. I don't fucking know.
It's something.
You got me confused now.
S and OS, you'll find it.
Google
Just
will
drink.
fix all your problems.
And yeah, man. I just
Yo, and
wanna
like,
say,
download it on fucking iTunes, because Spotify don't pay shit.
I'm only gonna stream Chris Thomas on Spotify from this day.
Hey, no, hold on. Listen, if you're out there, take your boy's music, put that shit on Spotify, and just loop that shit overnight. Every night you go to bed, turn on mute and just loop that shit on. Ah, man.
You can't even
That's why I
gain
haven't
followers
been
like
paid.
that anymore. YouTube views like that shit's been out of date for years, man.
That's
Damn
like,
it.
that's
Is
like
that why your shit keeps getting
1999
flagged?
That's why
Oh, yo,
I thought I seen a reaction video that went down.
Yo, really funny segue. Anyone who knows me knows that I used to do the Proud to be a Battle MC shit back from there. Remember earlier when I went
Talk
to
your shit.
go get that liquor, right? Like when I dipped to the LCBO.
Yeah. You went to the
Everybody-
LCBO,
So,
yeah.
the LCBO was literally right beside the bar that Proud to be a Battle MC started, which was basically the start of King of the Dot too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like, yo,
Talk your
I
shit.
walked by it, I was like, ah!
Yeah. That's
Yo,
what you want
shout
to
out
Institute
King of the
right
Dot.
there. Shout out
Man.
KOTD, man. Organic, all the homies. Sandeep, I feel like Sandeep doesn't get the love he deserves. Shout out my homeboy Sandeep.
Yeah. Yo,
I'm only
Sandeep's
gonna
the
say-
best.
No, Sandeep's birthday's the next day after mine, so on Sunday,
wow.
that's his birthday. That's my homie,
You know who
man.
else doesn't get the credit they deserve?
Who's
Mo
that?
G with the dance moves.
Hey,
Did you
shout out
see-
Mo
hold
G!
on. Did you see the interview on Bar 106?
No.
Then watch it. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't even know why he did it.
Shout out Max.
You're gonna be like, what the fuck is he
We
saying?
didn't even
Mike's
talk
like, I don't
about
even
it.
know why I
But
watched it.
on a
Yeah.
closing note, I don't know why
Watch
Drake
it,
did
well,
this
you're gonna be like, what the
fucking
fuck?
shot
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
But either way, it's your man Maloney and we signing out.
Shout out Max and the fam.
And smell my...
This guy said, fuck emoji.
Peace, y'all. It was a blessing. I don't even know if that makes sense.
It's a 6-minute interview. It's horrible, man.
Any interview that's 6 minutes long or less is a horrible interview.
I don't even know if it's an interview.